then what's even the point? Yeah, exactly. No, it is cool. It's like it's fun sort of being around like maniacs. It's fun like working out around like people I'm afraid of. I go into the gym and there's all these scary people there, and it's really motivating.
Then you got to work out enough so that you could run away from them if you needed to.
Right. If push came to shove, they couldn't just like snap me and like grab my head and then grab one of my legs and just easily tear me into two pieces. Yeah.
It's a jungle out there.
It's a good thing that you think so highly of yourself, honestly, Christian. I think it's a great thing. But there are some people that would say a 7'4" lanky guy with just a giant mustache on his face is a deal breaker for them.
Right, sure.
I'm just saying there are some people, not me
personally. There are some people,
personally.
but you know what I'm going to say to you, Dan? None of those people are working out at Planet Fitness. I'm just telling you that right now. Again, you go into Planet Fitness and it's like everyone inside of Planet Fitness, it's like they look like someone that like just decided like they're going to start taking fitness seriously today, but it's just perpetually. It's just like every single person in there is just like so out of shape. And me too. Also, but I was going to Planet Fitness like a bunch, and I was still because I was just like eating like shit and just like just pounding beer, and then I'm just like, oh, but I'm lifting weight, so it's like whatever. But it's like you'd go to like Planet Fitness, and there were like people, and I'd watch them over the course of like 4 or 5 months, and it's like somehow they're just like in worse shape every single time I see. It's like they're just getting like fatter and weaker, and yet somehow I just keep seeing them in the gym.
And every time you walked in, and every time you walk in, they would just clap for your arrival, right?
Yeah, they would
were just
bow.
this shining beacon,
of course,
of fitness. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I'm saying, but I feel like maybe you're missing the point of what I'm saying is the fact that it's
I'm not missing it. I'm not missing the point.
I wasn't the shining beacon of fit. I should never walk into a gym and be like one of the more in shape people inside of the gym.
Whoa! But hold on, you didn't say in shape before. You said attractive.
Well, I sort of take the two things to mean similar things
he
in
means
the context
if you're fat.
of a gymnasium.
Right,
you walk into a gymnasium. You know what I mean? It's we're all here for one reason.
Tell that to Thor in Endgame, okay?
Right. Hey.
Right.
Whoa.
Hey,
that's a.
go.
Oh my God. We figured it out. We found the intro. Nice. Okay. Good. Hi everyone, my name's Christian,
the very attractive guy,
aka your very attractive host, coming at you live.
Yeah, and I'm Dan, also known as very young
Less
and
attractive
vibrant, and very
Christian,
vibrant.
Not as attractive as he is. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm John. Hi.
And John is the
Hello.
actually only attractive person in these three people. So
yeah, but hey, we don't do video, so you'd never know.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Yeah, who knows what he looks like. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Christian. Of course, we're back for another episode of Cape Shit. I say it at the top of every single show. Tell your friends about Cape Shit. Tell them to listen. We're sort of a... Can we get some air horns here, Dan?
Yeah.
All right. We are, kind of a moderately successful podcast at this point. I know.
Wow.
We kind of recently surpassed 1,000 downloads, and that is 4 zeros after a 1. So that's pretty exciting stuff.
It's 3 zeros after a 1.
No,
for Captain
I don't know.
Attractive
Hold on.
over there.
Let me check the math really quick. You have the 1,
check the math.
then you have a 0, then another 0, then another 0, point 0, and then that's 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
True.
I'm just saying that probably all the other people at Planet Fitness would have figured out that math faster. So
maybe that's why they were all fucking dorks.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah, hey, you've been telling your friends about this. So that's cool. We're in phase 3. We did it, everybody.
We made it. Phase 3.
Who knew? But yeah, today we watched a movie called Captain America. Is it Captain America: Civil War? Or is it just
It
okay?
is.
All right. So we watched a movie called Captain America: Civil War.
Parentheses. Captain America is not the Civil War.
He's not the which I was confused about. Admittedly, when we went into this, I was like, okay, hold on. Captain America, he's a Winter Soldier, he's a first Avenger, and he's a Civil War now. Like, what even is? And I had to watch the movie a couple of times. After my third or fourth watch through of the movie, I was like, oh, it's not. He's not this. Okay, yeah.
Well, by the way, I also realized that we could have made it way more confusing because in Phase 4, there's a series called Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
It's not Falcon: the Winter Soldier. It is Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
See, that makes more sense, though.
Yeah, but I feel like that's less confusing because I'm like, there's Falcon.
I don't think so.
I'm
there
following.
Should be a colon somewhere.
And, so you're introducing another thing here, too. The Winter Soldier. Oh, okay, that's the second thing you're introducing. I just boom, boom, boom. I follow that logic.
Yeah, I mean, if Captain America was the Winter Soldier, it would have been Captain America is the Winter Soldier. Right, that would have been the title of the movie.
Right, which I frankly think that it should have been. I think it should have been.
But he's not the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, so it should have been more like Captain America is not the Winter Soldier. Should have been the title.
That's a much better title, John. Thank you. Yeah, the title of the movie should have been Captain America is not the Winter Soldier. But you'll find out who the Winter Soldier is. Excelsior. Mm-hmm. And then that's the title. And then that's the title. Yeah,
and
thank you.
Bravo. At the end, to signify it's the second Captain America movie. Okay, well, this is the third Captain America movie, Captain America: Civil War 3 in the MCU.
Right.
For Phase 3. See, it all makes sense. It lines up, unlike Iron Man 3, which was in Phase 2.
Right. It's
yeah,
like,
hold
on, it's phase 2, it's Iron Man, there's a 3 in there. I frankly threw my remote at my television.
Man has three letters in it, but it's still in phase 2.
But so it's like what is, and like iron, but like we're
not in phase 4.
So it's like all this talk about like vibranium, and it's like, well, shouldn't it be vibranium man? It's just
no, he doesn't have a vibranium.
But he's also not iron, so I don't know. what your
but
point
also
is
it iron?
We all have iron in our bodies, so we are.
Right.
All
so we're
Iron
all.
Man.
So we are Iron Man.
So that means
I
that
am Iron Man.
Anyone who gets on top of you, John, is technically Iron Man. So that should fulfill any fantasies there that you need.
Wow, I have really low standards.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so this is the first movie of Phase 3, directed by the Russo brothers, who did Captain America, the Winter Soldier, with a colon in the middle. And they're also going to be doing Infinity War and Endgame, which all 4 of the movies, including this one, are very good movies, and I'm sure we all agree with that, so this is going to be a great podcast.
Yeah, I didn't really like it, dude. I don't know, and I like I'll say that off the rip just to set the tone for what you can expect going into this podcast. Like I did with Ant-Man. I said, you know what? Off the rip. It's like, hey, we gotta set the tonality, the entire thing. And another thing I'll say too, I was kind of saying this to the fellas before the podcast started, is that
little behind the scenes.
Here's a little sneak peek behind the scenes for all you cape shit heads out there. I'm kind of bummed out. I actually really wanted to like this movie. I've liked the other Captain America movies. I'm kind of like, Ant-Man was cool. And it's like, okay, so it's like we're off the back of an Ant-Man. We're into a new Captain America movie. And it just, I just didn't really like it. It's like, I don't know, man. We'll see how the rest of Phase 3 goes.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I really thought this would be an easy win.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and even if even John agrees with me, then there's got to be something.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong here.
He probably watched like a bootleg version on accident that was just in the wrong language, the wrong movie, everything. So we'll see.
The title of the movie he actually watched was actually Captain America: Civil War.
Is the Civil
War. Captain America is not the Civil War. Close parentheses.
Yeah, got it. Well, the visual effects in this movie was done by 20 different visual effects studios, And in the end, this movie made $1.1 billion, which was the highest grossing film
$1.1 billion
of 2016. And that's it. We should hop right into it because this is going to be a discussion.
It's going to be a long one.
Yeah, it's going to be a long-ass cast, brother.
Yeah, we're going to get a little 1991 flashback in Russia and Hydra with a red book that has a star on it. And it turns out that this is the Winter Soldier being unleashed. And we're kind of seeing now how Bucky was transformed into the Winter Soldier and how he was utilized to handle missions for Hydra. We see the torturing with the random set of Russian words. So he's, I guess, a sleeper agent, right? That's what. Yeah. That's what that is. A
Manchurian candidate, as it will, and as Tony Stark will call him later in the movie as well.
I giggled. I mean, you know, those jokes are
you
for
would.
me.
That's the kind of thing you would giggle at.
Yeah.
I saw it and I went, no, I don't think so. I said that out loud, actually.
Yeah, I know you did. But there's a new mission for him, and he's on a cool motorcycle. There's a good amount of motorcycle riding in this movie.
There is a good amount of motorcycle riding in this movie.
Yeah. And then he gets some blue bags out of the car. So the question is, what's in the bag? What's in the bag? Who's in the car?
What's in the bag?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Who's in the car?
I mean, maybe we'll find out soon enough. And that's kind of just the quick intro there to get us, off the
Captain
bat,
America, the Civil War, parentheses, what's in the bag, who's in the car? That would have been a good movie.
Yeah, that's a great movie name for sure.
I like it.
You know what I didn't realize when I rewatched this movie was how much a lot of these movies focus around Bucky. I mean, the Winter Soldier plays a big role in like 4 movies? I don't know. It feels like we got the first Captain America movie. He played a pretty big role there. Winter Soldier, this one. Coming up again, we're going to see him again in in the future. So it's just like there's a lot of Bucky in the MCU.
Yeah, well, okay. And so off the rip, right? Question that I have. And actual, you know what? This is a little air horn, please. Can I get a little?
Yeah, please.
Oh, hey, what's up, everyone? It's Christian's good faith question corner. I have a question in good faith right now because I'm wondering if maybe I missed something. But why Bucky? I don't really get It's like, was there something special about Bucky that like made him like the perfect candidate for all of these like brainwash things, or did they just sort of nab a random American guy? And and if the answer is yes, has that already been explained and it's just something I've forgotten, or will we figure out late? Because the entire time I'm watching this, I'm just like, what, like fucking. Like, why Bucky? I don't really get, like, why Bucky's important to this thing.
I totally know the answer to this, but I'm going to let Dan answer it for you. Because I totally know, but
if John knows for sure, then, I'll let you explain. For me, I'm just taking a stab at it here, but the way that I see it is that Bucky was part of Captain America's crew when Captain America was first kind of set up, and Bucky was someone who was also going after Hydra at the time, right? So he was already a target of Hydra. And then when he fell down in that ice pit, off the train, and they were able to take him away, they were able to use him for experiments, essentially.
Right.
So there wasn't anything specific necessarily about Bucky, but they were able to utilize him as a person who they could experiment on, use the super soldier serum on, and then create the Winter Soldier for themselves.
Right, but couldn't they have just done that with like anyone really? Like why did it have to be Bucky?
I think because they were if you remember back in like the first Captain America where Cap rescues like all those people from the camp or whatever. And Bucky is the last person that they save, and he's like strapped to a gurney or something like that. He's strapped to a table. They were experimenting on him like way back then. So it's probably that they realized that like he had already been part of the process, and like I don't think they would prefer to experiment on their own troops. Like using a prisoner of war is probably like easier for them. Or like
but they've already made some level of progress.
Right, but then they did experiment on their own troops. It's like because like, and again, okay, spoiler alert for later in the movie.
After a successful run, though, That's the thing, right?
It's like,
the Winter
it's
Soldier
like,
was successful.
It's just Bucky, and then it's a bunch of like random Russian guys, and then also like, yeah, okay, and so maybe just for the sake of moving this podcast along, like if that's just something I have to accept is like, it's just that way because it's that way, I can accept it like that. But like but again, Bucky, I just find kind of a confusing character because I'm just sort of like, why was it like it's like why was it Bucky enough, as opposed to I don't know.
Is that not enough reason that he was a prisoner of war? They experimented on him and they decided to move forward because they had success with him?
Yeah, it's enough of a reason. I just don't like it. I can't totally put my finger on why I don't like it yet. Maybe I'll figure it out as the podcast continues.
Well, the good news is we're now in present day in Lagos, and we're catching up with Wanda, Widow, Falcon, and Cap, and they're looking for Rumlow from the Winter Soldier movie. Right. And from... Was he in Avengers as well? Age of Ultron?
I don't
remember now, actually. But yeah, so they're looking for Rumlow. He was one of the guys in the elevator fight, right? The big Captain America elevator fight, which was pretty fun. He is now known as Crossbones after the horrifying stuff. He kind of put in a costume, got that set up, and now he is looking for what I believe was some type of red vial liquid, which that wasn't the super soldier serum, I don't believe, right? That was...
I don't know.
Because the blue bags, spoiler, are the super soldier serum later on, which we'll discuss. But I feel like I just don't remember. Now, this was the Institute for Infectious Diseases, which is where they were breaking into.
I think the red vial is just supposed to be some like nebulously evil liquid substance that is they're taking from inside of this Center for Disease Control place.
Because this was supposed to be like a Wakandan outreach thing, so I just have to assume that the Wakandans were like developing some advanced sort of virus medication or something like that Hydra wanted to get, but it was never really explained.
Yep, and so they realize quickly that the garbage truck is a battering ram, which is going to help them break in, and then we get our first kind of fight of the movie here. And I think right off the bat, what I saw and felt was the impact of all the hits again. This is kind of another Winter Soldier thing for me, where I remember watching Winter Soldier, like all of the fight scenes and the impact of like Cap's hits and punches and him like kicking the truck and hitting the person back. All of these like fight scenes, especially here in the start, felt really impactful and really strong. And I was a big fan of this initial fight.
Yeah, I'll give you that, but I think that this initial fight sort of set up something for me that I didn't like that then occurred previously into the movie, and it's actually kind of a complaint that I had with Winter Soldier as well, which is that it's like the fight scenes are real goddamn choppy, and this first one especially it's just like 3 seconds cut, 3 seconds cut, 3 seconds cut.
3 seconds, man.
Yeah, I mean it's just like boom, 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 boom. It's like, and like I feel like I'm being like assaulted by so many things happening, and maybe it was like an artistic choice to try to show the chaos of combat or whatever. But I don't think so. I feel like that's giving them too much credit. I feel like it's just like it's if you want to sell this stuff, you can't have people look at it for too long, or it starts to look cheesy or fake or whatever. So it's like just tons of choppy cuts. And also first time, and again, and I know I'm like maybe being like, a little nitpicky here because like Dan might hear this and kind of roll his eyes, but actually like this scene, I think part of the reason why it stood out to me, it's the first time ever watching these Marvel movies where I was super aware who was a stunt double and who wasn't a stunt double. Like it just jumped out at me during these like first initial things, and especially the part later where Scarlett Johansson's like running, and it'll kind of be like the shots of like her face, and then it'll cut to behind her, and then she'll like jump over a refrigerator or something, and then it's like a scene of her face again, and then it like cuts back to behind her and she does like a flip over a guy. it's like it was like really obvious who stunt doubles were versus who the actors and actresses were, and that's not really a complaint I've had up till now, actually. But for whatever reason, this first scene here, like it just stood out to me in a really obvious way.
Yeah, I mean, the two kind of things that stuck out to me here watching this in the good was there were a lot of like cool movements in this. And what I really liked was like Falcon's movements coming in, like the kind of like twirling using the wings in a really cool way. And also like the boost jump that Wanda does for Cap when she lifts him up in the air while he's jumping to get him through the window. A lot of that
just
was
like
really
we practiced.
Cool. Yeah, that was dope. And then also even Widow's fighting, I felt like when she was like at the truck fighting off like 3 or 4 guys, I felt like the fighting felt more impactful. Like her punches were harder. It wasn't as acrobatic as previous things, even through the rest of this scene, going up to where they capture Crossbones. I feel like her fighting was really big. There were 2 kind of things here that were like, oh god, was one, Wanda pulling the gas out of the building. I was
she does pull the gas out of the building, doesn't she?
I was like, Christian's
there are
gonna
a
love
lot
this.
there are a lot of things in this movie where it's just like, okay, Wanda just does everything. I guess it's like we just have the person on the team that does everything.
So that was a bit that was a bit much. And then the second, which I was like, oh, this is a classic. I'm not a big fan of this moment, and I don't have many of these, is Widow surviving a grenade by using a human shield
and then gets blasted out of the door.
Out of the car. Yeah. Well, there's also a weird moment in here too, where it stuck out to me as weird, where there's just like a scene of Falcon like shooting guys with a gun, and I was like, wait, what the fuck? Because like we had never really like, and then we just like don't really see it again either. But it's just another thing where it's like it was like oddly violent. And I guess maybe that's sort of the point that they're like trying to make, but it's still sort of happening in this weird like Marvel thing where it's like a guy can get hit point blank with a grenade and nothing happens, and Falcon can shoot. It's like, why even give Falcon a gun? It's not like you're gonna watch him shooting people, really, like. So it's this like Disney disconnect thing that kind of happens in these movies for me a little bit.
Yeah, there was a good amount of shooting in this, which was, and they would cut away, obviously, once shots were
right. And then Falcon actually, like, at one point, like, drops, like, a rocket on people, like directly, like, he's shooting the guys. Then he has, like, a drone launcher that's, like, dropping missiles on them.
He shoots, like, 2 missiles out of, like, seeking missiles out of his back. And then I was watching the people that it hit, and they totally don't even fly backwards from the impact. It's just like they're engulfed in VFX flames.
Yeah,
it's like...
exactly. And again, and for me, and again, it's like, again, dude, I'm just like, it's like pick a lane. It's like it's cheesy action or it's not cheesy action. But when you start trying to bring like gritty real world action into like this Disney Marvel shit, it doesn't hit its impact for me as hard. I think really the only time that we saw it, it's crazy I can say things like this now, but I can because we've been doing this. The only time that we saw it where I was really like sold on it was the original Iron Man, but it wasn't Disney at that point, like in the original Iron Man, like people are getting shot and it's like, oh god, it's crazy, but now we're in a post Disney Marvel thing, so it's just the violence is like toned up in the sense that you're seeing it, but toned down in the sense that there's no consequences for any of it, so it's just sort of strange to watch it.
Yeah, that's something that sticks out to me about Bucky in like specific, because the funny thing about him is that he's going to be like the counterpart to Captain America, where he's like a super soldier, he's super buff, he can do everything that Captain America does, but then like for some reason they always give him like a big rifle to carry around, and it's just really weird to see him like, act like a dude who shoots people when he's super powered.
Right. I think the whole thing with Bucky though is that there's nothing holding him back, meaning that he'll use a gun if it makes sense to use a gun. He'll use a super soldier serum if it makes sense to use that. Like there's nothing that holds Bucky back, including using guns, right? So if he can use it, why wouldn't he? That's the way I see it. But and then we're gonna finally catch up with Crossbones, and then Cap and Crossbones are gonna have a little fight there at the end, which again, impactful hits on both sides. I mean, when I watch these fight scenes, I didn't see the cuts. Like, I get that there are cuts in between hits or whatever, but like, I don't know, those things didn't affect me in any way.
Or are we still talking about the first action scene?
No.
Okay.
I'm moved on to the Crossbones fight, which maybe there weren't as many in the Crossbones fight, but I don't know.
No. I agree with you. The only part that I got taken out of was like specifically, and I hate to like pile on to Christian's hate for Black Widow.
Do you hate to do that? Okay.
But like, it's specifically her spot was like the camera is extra shaky for some reason, and then they cut like literally every couple frames, and I was just I almost got motion sick from watching it. But once they get to I feel like they put all of the emphasis on Cap's fights, like in general throughout the entire movie. Which makes sense.
It is a Captain America movie.
It is a Captain America movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like every time Cap was on the screen, I was like, oh, this shit's good.
Yeah.
But then when they cut to other characters, I'm like, oh, they didn't really do the same quality. But
sure.
Yeah. Well,
they finally take down Crossbones, and at the last second, he is going to self-destruct. And so at the last second, Wanda contains the explosion, shoots it up in the air, but doesn't like move it away from the building, and explodes part of the building.
Which actually, here's a little fun fact I can tell you. Now that I've actually seen this movie, this might be a little lore for you that you might not know. Actually, in the comics, that's also like the kickoff point for the Civil War thing, except for it's one of the X-Men that explodes. Well, it's one of the mutants under Professor Xavier's tutelage that explodes.
Sure.
So maybe not quite an X-Man yet. And it levels an entire city, and that's the thing that like ends up kicking it off. And it's fun because I just hadn't really like thought about it, but, like until I saw this. I was like, oh, that's right. Like little flashbacks of reading the Civil War comics were kind of coming back to me. But so still, they kind of kept it in the similar vein of like an explosion. But the explosion in this one, it's just a tiny little explosion, you know. And in the comics, it's like 1 million people are dead. We need to do something.
Well, it sounds like, and we're going to get into this in a sec after we get past this MIT part, but it sounds like the Sokovia Accords, which is what we'll get into, was being worked on before this explosion happened. Right. But this definitely didn't help any scenarios.
This is the thing that like now it's incumbent on them to sign it before everything starts unraveling for them. But little do they know, John and Dan, things are going to start unraveling for them at this point regardless. So how about we can
move on. Amazing. Well, the next scene we get here is Howard Stark and Tony Stark and his mother. Which
What's
I
his
think
mom's
was
name?
Maria, I believe.
Maria. That sounds right.
Yeah,
Maria
I believe
Stank.
It was Maria.
Maria
Stank.
Stanky.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we're getting this what seems like a flashback moment in a fairly good de-aged Robert Downey Jr. I thought that was pretty cool.
It was serviceable. Fuck it. Like,
It wasn't Peggy, that's for sure.
It was not Peggy Carter.
It was not old Peggy. And I'm also wondering if having no facial hair helps de-age or makes it harder to de-age these actors. You know what I mean? Because I know that for like, what was it? The Justice League movie where they had to take off Henry Cavill's mustache. That did not go very well for them. So I wonder if just starting with a baseline of no facial hair helps them do these better. But I thought it was great. And then it gets revealed that this is not a flashback. This is actually an invention of Tony's that he made to be able to go into the brain and pull out memories and try to utilize those to relive them in some way. Revealing that he's at MIT and he's doing a talk and he's going to fund everyone's things. And then on the teleprompter, the head of the September Foundation, Pepper Potts.
Pepper Potts, but she's not there. Uh-oh. What hot water did you get yourself into this time, Tony, is what I said out loud when I saw that.
I know you
sure.
did. Because I know that we talked about in Avengers Age of Ultron, one of your critiques was that they mention Pepper in the party scene, and you feel like, well, they didn't really have to do that. But
yeah.
I did feel like here this was kind of a right place to mention Pepper and set up kind of the story for him in his almost downfall as Iron Man and Tony together, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree with my point too in Age of Ultron. It was just a weird thing to bring up. I mean, it did make sense that they would bring it up here. I would still throw out there though, like it would have been cool to see Pepper. Like I thought it was sort of strange that it's like they're trying to like set up this whole like, you know, oh, he's like tortured over the loss of this love. But it's like, we just don't see Pepper at like even a little cameo appearance sort of showing the tumultuous nature of their relationship might have been fun. Because I've always thought that like Pepper, and this has kind of been like maybe my arc with Pepper over all of the podcasts that we've done, is that I'm like, it's a cool idea for a character that is just constantly like shafted or used in ways that I think are kind of lame. But it's like on principle, like a character where it's like, okay, you know, she's like Tony Stark's rock, and she's kind of the reason he does this stuff. She's almost sort of the antithesis of like all the models that he's been banging. Now he's like trying to like live this more simple life. He wants to become a better man. Like it's an interesting dynamic, and then they just do dumb shit with her. And I almost kind of felt like this might have been another example of that to me, where I'm like, I still feel like Pepper had a place in this movie, or could have had a place in this movie, and it would have actually been very impactful. But it's just like another weird misstep with Pepper, where it's like she's just not there, you know, but you're supposed to care anyway.
Yeah, but you forget this is not an Iron Man movie. This is a Captain America movie.
That's true. Yeah, maybe if it was called Iron Man, the Civil War, parentheses, Pepper Potts is here, starring Captain America, who is not the Winter Soldier, nor is he the Civil War.
Yeah, exactly.
End parentheses. God. Then maybe this would have made a little more sense.
Yeah, it would have made a lot more sense. I agree.
Yeah, well, what you guys don't know is that Gwyneth Paltrow is just very busy with Goop. So clearly the MCU.
She was very busy with what?
Yeah, Goop.
What? Ew.
You guys don't know what Goop is?
Ugh.
That's her like
that's
super fancy company.
Don't talk about Gwyneth Paltrow like that.
Okay.
That's disgusting, dude.
That's a company that's come under fire for doing dumb shit and
hold on. Wait,
weird products.
Did they make the vagina scented candles? Was that
might have been it?
I think so.
They released like really weird
sure.
shit. Yeah, that's her company. That's
yeah.
Her company's called Goop.
Yeah, her company's actually called Goop.
What a fucking crazy lady. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like, go look it up. Goop it's crazy. Anyway, so after the talk, Tony walks in the hallway and sees a lady there just waiting at the elevator, but the button's not pressed. And as she reaches into her purse, he like grabs her hand like he's gonna get shot or something in that moment.
Really, I'm gonna jump in here just really quick and say I think you're actually underselling that just a little bit, because that was actually a scene in the movie that I liked. So maybe we hit the air horn. Maybe get a little. Woo! Hey, what's up? Hey, I thought welcome to Christian's. Hey, this was kind of cool corner. I liked how when he was talking to her, he's kind of like talking, and then like after they're sort of talking for a minute, he looks down and notices that the elevator button wasn't pressed.
Yeah.
So then he presses it and he's like, "Are you going up?" But like it like kind of creates this tension in the moment where he's like the dawning realization on him that she wasn't waiting for the elevator. She was really just waiting for him. Like I thought like that was cool. Mm-hmm. That was good. I like that.
Yeah, totally. It was a great moment, and I felt as soon as, because I forgot about that part as well. And when he realizes the elevator button wasn't pressed, and then she reaches for her purse, like that was an intense moment. You see how like paranoid, I guess, but for the right reasons that Tony is, and how much all of this is really taking a toll on his mental state. Again, kind of following up from Iron Man 3 and everything else that's been happening.
Also, this actress who is talking to Tony at this point, her name is, I don't know how to pronounce her first name. I think it's like Alfre Woodard. But she's also part of Luke Cage, but she's a completely different character in Luke Cage. But I thought it was interesting that they just like put her in. She's like a very good actress, and they put her into this one scene, and then you never see her character again.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, because when I saw her, I recognized her, and I was like, wait, she's not a big player in the regular MCU. No. And I remember, I've seen her in other things before, and now you mentioned it was Luke Cage.
Yeah, and she's like one of the main characters in Luke Cage. So
yeah, that was kind of interesting. So now let's see. We go from the hallway scene here, and then finding out that we're back at Avengers compound. Wanda's watching the news, and we find out that Wakandans were actually killed during Wanda's mistake, and that we see King T'Chaka for the first time on the news talking about this. Yeah, it's it's not great because Wakandans don't take lightly to Wakandans being killed outside of Wakanda.
Apparently. Yeah.
No. They really, really don't. And that plays out later on in the MCU as well. So Cap and Wanda are talking a bit about it, and then Vision just walks right through the wall as he's clearly trying to learn more human customs, but has not gotten the idea down of knocking at the door yet.
Yeah, which again, if I can say, like, Vision's cool. I said it in Age of Ultron. It was kind of like one of the redeeming parts of Age of Ultron to me is I thought Vision was cool. And even though I think some of Vision's character motivations in this movie were less cool than some of Age of Ultron stuff, I still like Vision as a kid. Like, every time he was on screen, he sounds cool. It's like a good actor. He looks cool. Like the way he moves is pretty cool. It's like the Vision scenes are fun, you know?
Yeah. They put a lot of good effort and thought into Vision. And also, again, whether they did or not, I don't know. But his like makeup and his overall look always looks really clean. And again, to your point, the way that he sits, the way that he moves, the way that he talks. Even his contributions to conversations when they're talking about the Sokovia Accords later on is really great. And so we find out that Secretary Ross is at the compound now, and he's here to present the Sokovia Accords after showing a quick rundown of all of the disasters so far through the MCU. I kind of like this. This is a bit of almost like a high-level recap of what's happened in the MCU that is, these things don't just go away. When these large events happen, whether it's in New York or DC or elsewhere, these things make a huge impact to the world, and now they're kind of feeling the heat of that. And so I really like that they kind of don't dismiss it, right? Yeah. Like in a standard TV show, you finish 30 minutes and then you forget that ever happened. But the thing I've always liked about the MCU is exactly this. It is the repercussions of previous events don't just go away.
Well, if anything, I think that this type of like groundedness to the Avengers came a little late. Like I feel like it almost feels out of place at this point in time.
Yes. And that was my total. I'm gonna let you. I'm a Kanye you in saying I am a let you finish. But yes, completely agree. That was absolutely my thing with this too. Anyway, please continue, John.
Because like we're in phase 3 already. There's been like 11 movies before this, right? And this is the first time that we ever see real world repercussions from what they do and from like all the aliens invading Earth or whatever, aside from just like a one-off line where someone's like, oh, like in Ant-Man, he was like, oh, the Avengers are busy dropping a city on the world or some shit like that. I don't know. But yeah, this is the first time that we ever see this type of like damage done by them.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that I think a couple things. So one, the fact that they call this the Sokovia Accords clearly makes it obvious that the Sokovia incident is what triggered this response, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that is really the first time where we saw an event that didn't have a clear villain for the world to see. We knew that it was Ultron, right? But as to Christian's point in Age of Ultron, we didn't really see Ultron's impact on what he was actually doing, right? It wasn't like he was on television and talking about all that. So when you look at Sokovia and the things that happened there, you really just associate the Avengers with it, good and bad. And so the way that I see it is like New York, there was a black hole that opened in the middle of the sky that aliens came out of. There was a clear villain, and I think everyone working together solved that problem, right? So when I look at, maybe it's been a few years since the Avengers formed and the Sokovia Accords, there had to be an event that would trigger that. And do I think that a black hole opening in the sky would cause the United Nations, 117 countries, to come together and say, we need to manage the Avengers? I don't think that that's it, right? So I see where you're coming from, but we also have to realize that the first few movies has nothing to do with the Avengers, right? In phase 1. The first time we see them together is with the aliens and the black hole. And then the time between that and Sokovia is 2 years, maybe less. And then we're talking about 117 countries trying to come together to put together accords. Like, that's not a 2-week turnaround type of thing. So anyways, that's the way that I view it. I see where you're coming from for sure, but I don't think it's unreasonable that this is the first time we're seeing this kind of repercussions from their actions.
I would have to think about it. I might agree with you. I might agree with you, but
hey, that's like a half point, Dan.
Yeah, that's like half point.
Okay, you know what? I'll take it. There are more points to come for me later, I'm sure.
I know. I think my thing with this movie too, and even probably to get a little meta on this podcast, is that like, if I have to stop and like nitpick everything I want to, it's going to be like a 6-hour long podcast. So I'm really trying to get my points in where I can.
Okay. Yeah. Well, So anyways, the Sokovia Accords are presented to the Avengers, and clearly right off the bat, we can see that there's some tension between them as they start to discuss. But we're not going to see the results of that conversation yet, because now we're going to check in with Zemo, who's in Cleveland. And he's crashed into someone's car out of nowhere, and which gets this guy to open his door. And then so all of a sudden, this guy is hanging upside down with his head in the sink.
Some guy.
Yeah, but it's cool because he's Russian, so you're allowed
if we've learned anything
to
from
torture
the MCU.
Russians in the MCU. We've already sort of established this. If he was just like an American guy who was like, "Hey, why are you torturing me?" Then people would have had an issue with it. But he's like, "Why are you? Why?" Oh, that's kind of French. Why are you torturing?
You're allowed to.
I can't really do Russian.
Yeah,
you're also allowed to torture French
fine.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Boy.
And Pakistanis if it's Iron Man, but
this brings us to our classic segment, moments that Dan didn't like. What? Oh my god. How did Zemo, as one person who is not a super soldier, lift that guy upside down, tie him to a pole, and get him just in the right way?
There are these things called
he'd
like
be
pulley
waterboarded?
and lever systems.
Yeah, duh. He had a pulley and lever system.
And the guy already had one in place in case he ever wanted to
No,
waterboard
Zemo's just
someone.
really smart and could set one up for himself.
See, this is what you're forgetting, Dan. The guy was Russian, so he's kind of an evil waterboarding kind of character. This isn't his first. Zemo, knowing the evil, nefarious nature of the Russians, would have just gone into the house already knowing that the waterboard setup was just there above the sink, ready to start waterboarding. Okay.
Well, what do I know? I clearly am not a big fan of the MCU.
You know what? I've often wondered that, Dan. What do you know?
Not much, apparently. But as this guy decides that he's not going to give up anything, Zemo does find the Red Book, which tells us what Zemo's plan here is to find the Winter Soldier and take control. Seems like it. And as this guy's about to drown, he says, "Hail Hydra."
Which is that's so stupid, dude. Why? it just is to like I don't have like a deep good reason.
Is it any stupider than the guy who was running away from Cap in the first movie for Captain America and then bites the cyanide tooth or whatever to kill himself while he says Hail Hydra?
No, all instances of Hail Hydra within the first Captain America movie were fine because it was happening historically at a point in time where, like, you know, you sort of had like World War II era sort of like comparisons between like Nazi villainy and then like Hydra, and it was sort of like goofy and over the top, but Hydra's kind of supposed to be cartoonishly evil. I just feel like once we now we've like flashed out of that era, now we're in the modern era, and we still have these like Hail Hydra. Like, I've thought every single instance of anyone saying that outside of the first Captain America movie has just been dumb, and I haven't liked it, and this did not make me start liking it. I still didn't like it here.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway.
But now we get to come back to the Avengers, who are discussing the Sokovia Accords and talking about what the right option here is. If they sign, the idea is that the Avengers would be essentially part of the United Nations and dispatched at their will instead of being able to kind of roam freely as they want to. Any missions would have to be approved, and anything they do would be monitored very severely. So Tony right away brings up, well, after complaining about a headache, brings up the kid that was talked about earlier, who was killed in Sokovia. Turns out that he was visiting Sokovia to build housing for the poor. Yeah. And during that time, he got killed in Sokovia. And this really, I mean,
that's
Tony
what you
is
get for building houses for the poor, I've always said.
I guess so. Yeah. But Tony here is, I mean, throughout this whole movie, Tony is really struggling hard. I mean, we see more emotion, I think, out of Tony in this movie than we have in any previous one. And I feel like almost his anxieties and stuff that they tried to portray in Iron Man 3, I feel like were portrayed better in this movie because they seem to be less over the top, I guess, with the way that he functions. But you can kind of see it in his face as he talks about the Accords, as he talks to Cap, as he later on sits down with Cap at the table to try to get him to sign, right? Like, he feels like he's gonna explode at any moment. Tony's just so bundled up in this anxiety and almost depression from like his impact to the world.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, I agree with that. I think that the portrayal of Tony Stark being kind of tortured in this movie worked better than like what we've seen it before. I also kind of think like during this scene, like, I don't know. I mean, maybe my issue with you know, sort of the Accord, the Scardovian Accord, the Sokovia Accord, is that it's like the entire thing was just like pretty one-dimensional to me. Like, I don't know, like it's like it almost had sort of like a WandaVision Ship of Theseus speech feeling to me, where it's like supposed to be this sort of like grand, complicated, layered question, and it's supposed to make you as the audience like think, and you're like, oh man, we too have been watching these movies without really, you know, considering the ramifications, and it's like opening up the world or whatever. But then it's just kind of like everyone just like gets sort of split down the middle, and it's like, and Captain America is just sort of like, well, that's dumb. I don't like that. We're not doing that. And then Tony's like, fuck you. Yes, we are. And then you know, they don't really like explore the nuance of the thing that much outside of really this one scene, and they don't even really explore it that much in this scene. Like, I don't know. It just didn't like hit with me on like any kind of emotional level. I just didn't really care about it.
What did you need to be explored? I mean, I don't think it's that like layered of a question. It's just like there can be like a debatable side to like either point. Like, do we sign or not? And the fact that I think that Tony has good reason to want to sign it, especially coupled with like all the guilt that he's been feeling and all the anxieties he's been feeling. And I think it makes sense for Captain America to not want to sign it because like he's always been that kind of like libertarian kind of dude.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just,
for
like,
sure.
We should be able to protect people under our own sort of jurisdiction.
And I also don't think that either Cap or Iron Man were ever 100%. And even throughout the movie, they shift sides slightly. Widow also shifts sides slightly. And all the other people are, you know, maybe more definitive, but we don't really explore because, again, we only have a 2.5 hour movie here. We got to get through it all. But, yeah, I didn't, I don't know. Maybe I didn't feel the same. I feel like this was a pretty big question and there was a lot of background to it. I mean, 2 phases worth of context to take into consideration as to why this decision mattered. And the fact that neither of them stood their ground 100% the entire movie felt like it was kind of the right thing, even if we ended on different sides, you know?
Sure.
But I mean, to John's point, what extra, I guess, would you have needed to see?
I don't know. I didn't write the movie. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what would have made me like it more. And I wish I had like a really nice, well thought out way to answer that question. Again, like, and kind of like what I was saying with like Bucky earlier, same thing with this. Maybe I'll find it throughout the podcast, but just something about it just didn't really do it for me. And like something about Bucky also doesn't really do it for me. Like, so yeah, I don't know. I guess like also, you know, you sort of have like the layer of Marvel convenience over the top of everything too, where it's just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. It's a decision that's conveniently split everybody like right down the middle. All right, now we're all gonna go fight, you know? And it's like, I don't know. It would just, yeah.
Well, it wasn't 100% split down the middle because then they had to go recruit people because there were lopsided kind of views on this.
Which I also, by the way, had some issues with.
Oh yeah, here we go. Cool.
You know, whatever. We'll get there when we get there.
Well, unfortunately, right in the middle of the conversation, Cap gets up and leaves because it turns out Peggy has passed away.
Yeah. Thank God, dude. Damn, I am so tired of hearing about Peggy
for her
Carter.
A long time, bro.
Yeah, she survived a long time, but this is where we get the big reveal. By the way, this was the agent. What was it, Agent 13 or something?
Yeah,
the one that was living across the hall and flirting with your boy, dude. Yeah, and we also and thank God that during this very uncertain time in Captain America's life, she's there to give a incredibly on-the-nose eulogy that just completely helps inform his decision right when he is in this, like, you know, moment of moral crisis and doesn't know what to do. That was really cool of her to do that.
You want to know my problem with this scene, with the whole setup of the eulogy or whatever, is that there's a giant crowd. Like this church is filled with people, and I'm like, and what's her name? Sharon Carter. Is giving a big speech, very candid about the fact that her grandmother was a spy for for SHIELD, especially like in World War II. She's like one of the creators of SHIELD, and I'm like, if you and your grandmother were like so involved in these sort of like very espionage type operations, wouldn't you not want that information to come out to the public? And also, like, who are all these people that knew your grandmother when I don't, like, it just doesn't make sense to me that you would have this many people show up to someone who is supposed to be so enshrouded in terms of their identity.
Yeah, well, and also, like, isn't SHIELD, like, hasn't it been ousted as like a Hydra organization at this point? So is like being a part of SHIELD even something like cool anymore? Like, would you even really want people to know that?
Well, SHIELD was, yes, taken down by Hydra, but then kind of being rebuilt at the same time by Nick Fury and others, right? So, and Sharon Carter obviously is part of that. So it was, but not anymore. So also, we don't know who was at the funeral. They could have all been SHIELD agents. We don't know, right?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they weren't.
But a
maybe
congregation of ex-SHIELD agents would also seem to be like a really opportune time for someone who had ill intent towards them to strike. You know,
Sure.
I mean, it is true. Yeah.
Sure. I won't cede to that. You know what? I will cede that point to you.
I'm gonna take my fucking half point back. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so after that, Widow shows up because she didn't want Cap to be alone, and it turns out that Rhodey has signed, Tony's signed, Vision, and all of them have signed the Accords, but Hawkeye, he says he's retired. And at that moment, I said, "Oh, we're not going to get any Hawkeye in this movie."
No.
And you know what, Dan? That I'm sure that would have been disappointing for you, but you'll be happy to hear we get a lot of Hawkeye in this movie. It's just, this is.
And also for Widow to think that Cap was really concerned about what Hawkeye was doing is a pretty funny notion as well, because I don't know that they were necessarily best friends, but at least we know now that Hawkeye is retired. So don't even ask him what the deal is.
Right, because you try and ask him, and he's, you know what? I'm just trying to live a simple life with my wife and children. That's all he cares about these days.
Absolutely. Well, Widow says she's going to Vienna for the Sokovia Accords signing, and she'd like to see Cap there, but he's not going to do it. And so now we get our first look at Prince T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman. Man, this was this scene hit for me, man. I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and I just saw Wakanda Forever, right? And man, that was it's tough. I feel like every moment Black Panther was on screen or T'Challa was on screen, he did a great job in this. It was a really good intro for Black Panther, and I thought he did a great job here. And then we even get a little scene here, which I didn't remember about. King T'Chaka and T'Challa talking to each other, just kind of talking about him getting into politics, and he's proud of him and all that. And it's a lot. It's a tough
to
thing.
take in after everything that happened in the latest movie. But
yeah. Well,
I don't care. I never saw the latest movie, and you know.
You don't care about humanity. It's fine.
You know, whatever. It's like, hey, you know what? Eventually, we're all gonna die, and someone will be listening to this podcast and fondly
Seems
refraining about. yeah, probably not actually.
Anyway, so and then as they get started here, and T'Chaka is speaking, all of a sudden we look out the window and we see something doesn't look right here, and. Boom, an explosion to take out. Now this, again, to your point of the funeral, it's like, I mean, I guess if there was any time to try to take out a group of people, it'd be the people signing the Sokovia Accords, which, you know, if I take a second now and think about it after your little funeral speech, I'm like... Man, I don't know if there was any time for Tony to put every bit of technology he had to protect an area of the world. Maybe it would have been during the signing of the Sokovia Accords. You know, like.
Also, that kind of tangentially raises another question for me: is, was he specifically trying to kill T'Chaka, or was that just like a happy coincidence for him?
It was just cool that it happened that way.
He wasn't targeting anybody. He was
just trying to sow discord.
Right.
Yeah, by then blaming the Winter Soldier, which by the way is not Captain America.
No.
Right. Which
Bucky.
Again, I was so confused.
I know you were. I know. Well, right away, the Winter Soldier's blamed for the explosion. And T'Challa then later on has a little conversation with Widow, saying that he's going to kill Bucky himself. And we don't yet know how he's going to do that in the context of this movie, but he is not happy at all, but he is now king of Wakanda because of this death. But now, as Cap and Widow are having this conversation, we get the classic hiding in plain sight with hats and glasses.
That was so fucking dumb.
It's all of them, by the way. They're all wearing hats and glasses.
I swear that like the dad Cap phase of like the modern casual wear happened because of this movie and not the other way around.
Yeah. No, like straight up. It's like him and then like Falcon, and they're like sitting at like a bar with aviators and hats on within eye shot of Natasha. Like he's like staring at her while they're talking, and she's just like, "Oh, where are you?" It's just like
the worst part is she kind of thinks that he's there, but she doesn't keep looking after she stands up. Did you like she stands up as if she's like, oh wait, he's here for sure, right? And then she doesn't move her head after that. She looks in the same direction for the rest of the entire conversation, where if she like moved to the right a little more, she would have seen Steve standing there.
Right.
So that part, I definitely noticed that was a bit ridiculous. But would she have even recognized him with the hat and the glasses on?
Yeah, I don't know. It was such a good disguise.
I mean, it was like when he went into his own museum with the hat and the glass. It's like, yeah, dude, it just renders him impervious. No one can tell.
Yep. Well, they get some info from Sharon as to the whereabouts of the Winter Soldier, also known as Bucky, and turns out that he's in Bucharest. That's just where he is. And I guess in the timeline of this, when we see Bucky in the streets of Bucharest and the guy like at the newsstand sees him and looks like he's gonna like go call somebody, the way that I viewed that was like that is how Sharon found out that they're there. But in the timeline of it, it kind of is a weird, it's almost like a flashback to an hour before, Cap gets the info, because it seemed like a weird kind of placement of that scene. But anyway, so Cap finds him, and now they're in this apartment talking out to find out, hey, is this Bucky or is this the Winter Soldier?
The Winter Soldier.
And then we get a little conversation for that before we get a stairwell fight.
Yeah, well, I thought in the conversation it's also like funny because like Captain America is like, hey, you can't kill anyone, Bucky, and he's just like, I'm not gonna kill anyone, and then he like picks up a cinder block and hits a guy in the head with it.
Meanwhile, Cap is like bashing people with his shield in the face, and I'm like, yeah, no, totally, that guy's still alive.
I mean, I did like the dynamic of this stairwell fight where there were moments where Bucky would like throw someone over, then Cap would save them and like throw them back up against the wall to knock them out, and like it seemed like as Bucky was going to kill these people, Cap just kept cleaning up the mess as they would go down the staircase. Interesting scene. I think what it really showed was the strength of his arm, and I think that's what they were kind of trying to nail down here, especially like when he falls like multiple stories, then grabs the handrail and you see the whole rail just like bend. Yeah. I thought that was kind of a cool way to show the impact of how strong not only he is, but how strong that arm is as well.
And the rail too. The rail's pretty strong.
Yeah, and the rail's pretty strong
also
too.
A very strong rail, yeah. It's probably a nice apartment complex to live in.
That's how they make them in Bucharest. I don't know if you knew that, but yeah.
No, actually, this is like the start of probably one of my favorite action scenes in all of the MCU. I think. Are we at the part where he jumps across the building and then Black Panther comes?
Yep. Okay. This is it. This is our first appearance of Black Panther.
Yeah, the whole Black Panther chase scene is probably my favorite. Until we get to Shang-Chi maybe, but even then I think it still might be my favorite. Just the whole the fact that like they were able to sell them running as fast as cars while like maintaining like the sense of physicality, I guess, like realistic physicality was really cool. And the way that they did it too was like really cool because they actually had shot all of this practically. And you're probably like, how the hell did they get them to move at that speed? Well, they had like these carpets trailing behind the cars, like really long treadmill carpets or whatever. And so you had them start up with the car, and the car would drag the carpets along, and they would run on the carpet behind the car, and then in post they would just remove whatever carpet it was. So like they were actually traveling the speed that you see them in the movie in real life.
That's fun.
Which is like really fucking cool. But
yeah, this is cool. I always like when we get to see kind of the full power of the super soldier serum with the speed that we see. And not only that too, we also see kind of the effect of the herb from Black Panther, because Black Panther also gets a form of kind of super soldier serum, but it's a vibranium grown herb in Wakanda that's given to the Black Panther, whoever's chosen to hold the mantle. And so, yeah, seeing them here, we also get to see that kind of super speed again in the future with Cap and Black Panther running together, which is really cool. But yeah, I love this too. I thought the whole chase scene was really well done, but I liked how it switched between cars and on foot. Also loved the motorcycle steal with Bucky, where the motorcycles come by and he grabs it with his arm and flips it around. I thought that was just
that shit's
such
crazy.
a sick moment. But yeah, this whole chase
work
scene,
physically, but
yeah, it does. You just got to have a super soldier serum and a special arm.
Yeah, and a special arm. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm sort of like looking for like I don't really like everything you said is right. I just didn't care. I don't really know how like. I feel like the thing I'm struggling with here is like I wish I had like some like great like breakthrough point to be like this is exactly what, but I'm just like I don't know. The scenes were like really long. It just didn't really like do it for me. I guess like just like long uninterrupted action scenes. Kind of like who the fuck is Black Panther? You know, I mean, and now we know, but it's like the big reveal of this like new guy, and I'm just kind of like I don't really care about the new guy. I want to see what's happening with all the old guys, and then Bucky is just not that interesting to me anyway. So then it's like a new guy and Bucky, and then and then we just sort of have this long scene with two characters I don't really care about, and it just like wouldn't end until it eventually did. And that's my thoughts anyway. Back to you, Dan.
Well, so my question, I guess, would be if this exact scene happened,
right?
All of it the same, the chase, the motorcycle, everything about it, but it was not an MCU movie and it was different characters.
Yes.
Does that make a difference to you, or is it just you don't like these action
sequences?
No,
it actually probably would have made it even worse if I'm being totally real. Like at least with this, I can kind of like fall. But I will say, if you had this exact same scene, but it was like Iron Man chasing Captain America through a thing. I think I actually legit would have been like more into that. I feel like maybe kind of what like pulled me out of the movie a little bit is that it's like a lot of like B characters and like side characters that are sort of coming in to show how expansive the universe is, but I just don't really like care about them that much, and then like later, and we'll get to it when we get to it, but I felt like that especially during like the kind of like airport fight scene that occurs later too, where it's like there's just like I'm just like it's like there's just like so like it's like all these things I'm not emotionally attached to are all happening, but it's like I don't really care that they're happening because I'm not emotionally connected to any of it.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting wrong opinion, but it's fine.
It is interesting though.
It is interesting, albeit wrong, but it's interesting. Anyways, at the end here, War Machine shows up, and they're criminals now. That's it. That's
congratulations, Cap. You're a criminal. Pretty cool line. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, and so they're taken in to custody. After, I thought maybe at this point he just realized there wasn't any other way, but he very quickly, T'Challa quickly reveals himself as Black Panther. And I don't know exactly what the play there was, but maybe he just didn't think there was any other way out of it. But that was kind of
just jumped 30 feet into the air and ran away.
Yeah, I mean, he also had a vibranium suit, so he could have just outlasted the bullets.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I don't know. That was that I can't even defend that part. That's I guess my point is there's nothing there I can defend. It was kind
he
of
just wanted
weird...
he just wanted like a cool review. He wanted to like show off how the suit
Now,
like melted
that's
down
true.
off of his head, and he was like, "Hey,
He
look at
is
this
very
fucking
cool.
thing I own."
Yeah, he is very cool.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. I agree with you there. Anyway, so we're back at the Avengers compound now, and Vision is cooking. And he's cooking a dish for Wanda. He seems to have this kind of attachment to Wanda in some way because he's kind of feeling like Wanda's maybe not being treated the right way based on kind of her what is later referred to as an internment to the Avengers compound, as she's not allowed to leave, and Vision is kind of her caretaker. And it's interesting how like very quickly he is moving into this world of like trying to be more human. He's wearing kind of human clothes, and he's trying to learn the conventions, and he's learning how to cook, and he's doing all of that other work. And it's
he has this little acting moment where he asks if like he added enough paprika, and she's like, yeah, it's pretty good, and he like kind of turns away and he's like, yes. Like it's one of my favorite acting moments. But,
yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just their chemistry as two actors, but I mean, and maybe Christian will disagree with this, but I felt like they had that relationship like immediately. I don't know. They just felt like they had a connection in this scene that just worked, not even in a romantic way, but just as like even just a friendship way. They just immediately connected in this moment. I think
here's the deal, dude. Like the chick that plays Wanda, I'm like I could give a fuck. It doesn't matter. I don't like her really, but
it's
like
Elizabeth Olsen,
Elizabeth
the Olsen sisters.
Wait, what? Wait, is it? Wait, really?
Yeah,
is that like one of the
Mary
Olsen
Kate and
twins?
Ashley.
Oh,
she's the third Olsen.
Okay, well then I don't give a fuck about her much like the rest of the world, I guess. But like,
well,
you got to be the
that's
third
changed
Olsen
now.
But I mean, has it? I don't know. And maybe whatever for you, Dan, it has. For me, I'm still not caring about the third Olsen sister. But
for normal people, it has. For people like you, it hasn't.
It just I don't know. She doesn't do anything for me. I feel like she kind of like overacts it a little bit. But also maybe that's just the way the character's written because I think the character is what. Yeah. But okay. But here's what I'm trying to say is that the guy that plays Vision is so goddamn good that he could do that entire scene, but you could just replace that Olsen girl with like a stick, like sitting in a chair, and he's just delivering his lines to the stick. And I would have been like, whoa, it seems like him and that stick have like a real connection going on. It's like that dude fucking owns. He's really, really good. So like as far as Vision goes, it's like, yeah, you put him basically anywhere talking to anyone about anything, and it's like it's a good scene. Like he's cool. He delivers it all really nicely.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
I guess I'll take that.
That's another interesting point.
But you know what he does say is he talks about how he doesn't really know what the Mind Stone is. He doesn't really understand it. He knows that it powered Loki's staff.
Yep, and that the power of Loki's staff gave her abilities, which we knew, but that's just further confirmation that is just this fucking dumb thing that exists in Marvel movies.
Yep. Anyway, so Wanda realizes after that Vision is actually holding her there on order from Stark.
Right.
Which, we're not going to see the impact from that right in this moment. But now we're back in Berlin.
Which also hold on. So is Vision like autonomous, or does Vision like have to listen to Stark because it's Jarvis?
No, he's
like,
autonomous.
He's autonomous.
So then why is he like? Because like when you first sort of see him. Like in Age of Ultron, his whole thing is he's like, I want to understand humanity and I value the freedom of humanity, and I think that people making their own choices is a very interesting thing. And so it was just like weird to me where he's like, oh, okay, I'm actually like super authoritarian now, and I'm going to hold you captive inside of this compound. Like I didn't really understand his character motivation to do that.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily it was just that. I think it's that he feels for Wanda, and also he's the only person out of the entirety of the Avengers that could even be there to be supportive of Wanda, but also be there in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
He's the only one. There's no, I mean, like, what, Hawkeye's going to be there and try to prevent Wanda from doing something? It's just, but it's not an option, right?
It just felt like if Wanda was like, hey, like made this like emotional appeal to Vision, that Vision would at least be like interested in hearing what Wanda had to say, as opposed to just like completely stonewalling her the entire time. Again, it just seemed like a shift in Vision's character from where we had seen him in Age of Ultron. I sort of had this idea in my head about Vision that is different than what we saw of Vision in this movie.
I just think that there has been a shift in his character. He is a little bit more human in this movie.
Sure.
Than he was at his inception in Ultron, but I think that he is more partial to signing the Accords because it's the path of least resistance, and he thinks that would be a better choice to protecting Wanda and like the rest of the Avengers as well.
I can live with that.
So back in Berlin now, where Bucky and the rest of the crew that got arrested are here, and Bucky's being held inside of this like chamber to prevent him from hulking out. I guess you don't want to see when the other guy shows up,
right? You wouldn't. Hey, are we having a code white for the winter soldier? You know,
that was close. You got to watch out here. But we get our first introduction to Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman. And this
Bilbo
is
Baggins.
Not the last time. Yeah, it's Bilbo Baggins. He also played Watson in Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, that's who, dude. Yeah. The entire time, no, it was Bilbo. I was like, why? And I'm like, why the fuck do I know this guy?
Watson?
Like, I know, that's so fun. Yeah, you guys can't see it because like we're on video, but you're listening to audio. But when I was like, oh, like Dan's face just like lit up. Like he was like, yeah, it's
Sherlock.
Watson. Yeah, no, but yeah, Bilbo Baggins. Yeah, I didn't. You know what, dude?
If I had to guess between Sherlock and Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, like. Come on.
If you guys
want to
actually at some point in the future see a podcast where Dan actually loses his fucking mind, I hated Sherlock. Oh my god! Like we could do a whole Sherlock.
Wait. The movie or the TV show with Benedict Cumberbatch?
With Benedict Cumberbatch.
I'm already losing my mind.
I don't think I'm a huge
writing
fan
in
of
that
Sherlock
show
either.
Oh my god, the writing in that show was so good.
It really wasn't.
I think it was supposed to seem like it was good, but then it
see, that was my thing.
No,
is that it's
disagree.
It's like all this shit that hasn't been revealed to the audience at any point is the thing that he ends up solving. And so it's like you just wasted 3/4 of this fucking episode on like nothing, only for him to just put it all together at the end.
You want a better show that's like in the same vein as Sherlock? You go and watch Death Note. That's what that is.
Yeah, you know what, dude? Yeah, 100%. And we'd lose our minds on the Death Note podcast because Dan would hate that shit, dude.
Yeah, 100%. Because I watched the first. No, I didn't watch that. What did I watch? Anyways, doesn't matter. Oh,
I think I had you watch the first episode of Psychopaths.
Well,
yeah, and I didn't even finish it. Yeah,
no, he has fucking bad taste.
Yeah,
we've discovered it through this podcast.
Sure. No, that's fine. Yeah, the thing that's made billions of dollars that clearly is better versus the cartoon. Yeah, I get it.
Whoa. You can't just call it a cartoon.
Whoa.
But also, I just want to point out here that my original hypothesis was right. If you ever did want to see Dan lose his mind in a podcast, it would be one about me hating Sherlock, because that's just a little snippet of how upset he just got right there.
Okay, well,
you saw the red flash in his eyes, dude.
Yeah, well,
it's like he's gotten too used to me not liking Marvel that it doesn't like affect him emotionally anymore. It's like we got to pick something else that Anyway, back to you, Dan.
Great. Now that we're moving on in the Marvel world, I can't wait to watch Doctor Strange. This is gonna be boy.
Wait, Sherlock.
Yeah, Sherlock. The shield and Falcon's wings are now the government's property, and Falcon better not see anybody flying around outside later on, which goes back to the point of, so Falcon, you're just kind of a guy with the wings, right? And I guess, when Iron Man isn't wearing the suit, he's still, what is it, a philanthropist, billionaire, playboy? genius.
Yeah.
Right.
Vibrant.
What is Falcon? I get vibrant, young.
Vibrant,
yes.
young. Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the scene here where we're gonna get Tony and Cap sitting down, discussing again the Sokovia Accords, and this is where we get kind of a little bit of a breakdown from Tony, where he's kind of talking about what his motives are, not only just the things that happened in Sokovia, but also the things that have happened in his life. You know, in Iron Man 3, he destroyed all his suits in an effort to try to, win Pepper back, essentially, and that he would slow down. And he has not slowed down in any way, shape, or form, because Ultron happened, and then he built more suits, and then Sokovia, and then everything else. And, he thought the Sokovia Accords would be a good middle ground to try to get Pepper back on his side, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And it seems like in this moment, Cap's just starting to feel like, you know what, Tony is actually being genuine right now. And I felt like that was the case too. I don't know if you guys felt that as Tony was talking.
He even picks up the pen. He's like,
yeah. And when have we ever seen Tony to be the kind of person who would compromise on anything?
Yeah.
So
yeah, he just in this moment it felt like he was the most real that he's been. He was he lifted up the defense guards there for Cap and was like, this is who I am right now. This is where I'm at mentally, and I think this is the right thing to do. Until Cap realizes that Wanda is being essentially held prisoner inside of the Avengers compound. And that really Tony's not changed at all. He's still doing what he thinks is right, regardless of what anyone else wants him to do. And Cap pretty immediately shifts back, and it kind of pushes him even further away from signing the Sokovia Accords after this conversation.
I like this dialogue between Cap and Tony. It's it further builds on the point that they both kind of have good points to either side. And this is one of my favorite parts about this movie is that things are pretty ambiguous. You could see it go either way. And then something happens later that kind of throws that away. But we'll get to that.
Well, yeah, and so as this conversation's happening, someone from the UN has been sent in to review and discuss whatever is happening with Bucky and the Winter Soldier, which are, by the way, the same person. Bucky is the Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Wait, I thought that was Captain America.
No, it is not.
I thought that was the Civil War.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Captain
not
America,
the
Civil War Winter Soldier
okay.
from as seen in the Civil
Are we sure
War.
It's not some Holy Trinity thing where they're all different, but they are still the same?
Right.
Is it something like that?
Yeah, it's like different manifestations of the same
deity.
entity. Yeah.
No?
Yeah, are you sure about that, Dan?
No, because Captain America, he only believes in one God.
That's true. So he doesn't believe
That's
in the Trinity.
That's a little callback.
Yeah.
A little callback for you there. But it turns out that, maybe this person that's interviewing Bucky isn't who he seems.
What?
Ooh, what? And then,
and then we get a classic Bucky brainwash.
Yeah, well, not before Zemo destroys the power grid with some ambiguous machine that looks
called an EMP.
really. But is it actually an EMP?
I would assume.
Is that
so.
what an EMP looks like?
Yeah,
I've
just
seen
looked
many
EMPs before in my lifetime.
As a man who's detonated many EMPs in my life, they got it close.
It looked like a science project. We saw it earlier in his hotel room, but it was just coils and wires and stuff. So I didn't immediately go, oh, I wonder what that EMP is going to be used for. I just said, wow, that's a big machine. Turns out it was meant to shut off the power grid. And there's apparently no backup power in this giant facility that's run by the government. It's just if power is gone, they lose all power. There are no generators, no battery backups.
Yeah.
Well,
nothing.
I think there were backups. It just took them 30 seconds to do it.
Did they come back on that quickly?
I don't know. He seemed like he was operating on a limited amount of time.
Yeah,
Well,
he
yeah,
blows it up, and he's like, "Oh shit! Now it's time to Bucky brainwash time."
Yeah.
He says that out loud, and then he turns to the camera and he winks.
Yeah, well, Bucky does break out of the cage right before. I'm not giving any of that credence. Bucky breaks out, but not before Zemo's able to
do a
take
classic.
him over again.
Not before he's able to do a classic. Bucky. No, you gotta. Not before he's able to do a classic. All together. Okay, on 3. Now, before he's able to do a classic, 1, 2, 3. Bucky brainwash. It's a classic Bucky brainwash kind of situation. Which, by the way, stop with the fucking brainwash. I'm so goddamn tired of this fucking like trope happening in all of these. It's like just.
I mean, it's a sleeper agent. It's not that.
I'm done. I'm over it, dude. Like I'm like.
It's not like though this was just like a one-off brainwash. It's like the entire character's backstory is him being a sleeper agent.
Right.
It's not like this movie just decided to throw in a brainwash out of nowhere.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I just don't like it.
I'll take that point.
You know
Thank
what?
you for that.
Like this is, and I feel like maybe we've hit on the theme.
I really like your opinions in this one. I just don't like it.
I don't fucking like it, dude.
guys.
Whatever the fuck. Listen, I don't even sound that whiny motherfucker. All right, I'm very fire and brimstone with my dislike. All right, this is it's a very deep masculine dislike.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Zemo, so we still kind of don't know what this December 16th, 1991 date is. He keeps kind of looking for this mission log, and it's unclear kind of what Zemo's end goal is right here. We're kind of getting closer, but it's not super clear. But then he gets
it from Bucky, but then the audience still doesn't know exactly what, but he knows now. He got the whole thing was he was trying to get it, and now he got it, and now his classic Bucky brainwash has been seen to fruition, because that
classic as in that's the whole character story arc.
That's the whole character story. Yeah, it was just like a lame character. Anyway, whatever.
Anyways,
I'm just tired of it. I'm sick of it. I don't want to see it anymore. I want to just move past this part in Marvel movies. I just want character.
How many brainwashes have we seen?
Okay, well, we had everyone in the Avengers. Yeah. So first Avengers, like everyone's getting motherfucking brainwashed. And then the Second Avengers, everyone's getting motherfucking brainwashed. And then also Bucky, I guess, in the Winter Soldier. It's another classic because you got some Bucky brainwashing going on in there.
Because he's a sleeper agent.
And then you got Cap, who is a Christian. So you got Captain America.
Yeah, and he only believes in one.
Yeah, and he only believes. And then we got it here too. And so that's like 4 movies, dude. We got like 4 heavy brainwash movies.
Well, now the Winter Soldier escapes.
Oh my god!
Wait,
hold on. Would you consider every single time the Hulk transforms to be a bit of a brainwash?
No.
Because if so, then it's happening all the time.
But I wouldn't.
But I think, But
I wouldn't, though.
But, I mean, if you really think about it.
I wouldn't, though.
Well, it's okay. Just think about it. Anyway, back to you. Just think about it. All you have to do is just think about it.
Clearly the Winter Soldier here is definitely brainwashed because he goes to shoot Tony, and if he didn't have his Iron Man one-hand gauntlet on, that would have been a dead Tony there. And you can see it in Tony's face, like the shock and surprise in his face of like, oh, this is not the person I thought I'd be fighting up against in this moment. And so I liked kind of that reaction before Bucky gets away into a helicopter that's on the roof. But now what we get to see, my favorite part, is Cap's glistening muscles as he pulls the helicopter from trying to get away. And in this moment, by the way, he talks about this in an interview. They initially were just, obviously there's not a real, I know this is crazy, there's not a real helicopter that he's pulling back. I know that's a lot for you to take in, but this is not a real helicopter. But what they were doing was they had that rail and that he was trying to hold on to it, and they didn't really push it very far. So he was just trying to flex to like show the strain of himself. And then finally he told them to like really pull the thing away. And then he ended up actually hurting himself. So you can see kind of his muscles kind of exploding in this moment because they actually pulled this rail back with significant force. And so the look on his face was actually significant, but it wasn't a real helicopter.
Well, that's, I don't know. I don't even know if I want to continue with this
there
podcast anymore.
Pulled it back.
Yeah, I actually, you know what? Hey, credit where credit's due. I like this scene. It's also like Arnold Schwarzenegger got a scene like this in the '90s in one of his fucking movies where it's like a Schwarzenegger throwback that Chris Evans now gets to do Schwarzenegger things, and that's probably pretty fun for him.
Well, if there's anything all actors are going for, it's for a Schwarzenegger moment.
It's just doing Schwarzenegger thing. I just want to get out there, just
classic Arnie.
Yeah, just sure. channel your inner Arnie. No, I don't know, whatever the fuck. I thought that was cool. I thought it was fun. The helicopter thing, like, why not, dude? Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, this catches us up to where the end credits scene was for Ant-Man, I believe. Which was them in this garage with Bucky's arm like attached to the table, and Falcon and Cap are there trying to determine what their next steps are. And this is where we've really finally realized, like, this is actually Bucky. He remembers Steve. He has all his memories. Like, he remembers in this moment who he is.
Yeah, which I kind of didn't get that. It's why does he he activates and he goes into a fugue state until he does the thing, and then he's like him again. It after because he almost seemed like when you saw him before in the movie, he was still a little muddy, like he still had some brain fog, and so but now we see him and he's like, oh, it's actually me and I remember everything now. But it's why now? Why not before? Or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, it's not super clear. I think the only thing I can think of is that in this moment he was knocked out, and it kind of does. Whatever. I don't know brains well enough for brainwashing, but maybe that this kind of reset him. Versus previously, it was more so that he was the Winter Soldier and then slowly left that state of mind versus being kind of reset by being knocked out unconscious.
Yeah, getting knocked out is really bad for you.
Except for when you're the Winter Soldier.
Right, unless you're the Winter Soldier, and then maybe it jumbles you back to whatever. Again, that just and it was just another kind of Bucky thing with me where I'm I didn't really understand how we had even gotten to this point where now he's just completely lucid, but he just is now, and we just kind of have to accept that. Then he starts doing buddy cop shit with Falcon, and I was like, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the jump to the buddy cop shit with Falcon was a little quick.
It's a bit much.
A bit much. They just shoehorned it in there. It didn't really need to be there. But they obviously had the idea that they were going to make Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so they had to set it up.
I don't think they did at this point. I mean, we're talking about this had to have been at least 4 years before Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
So what you're saying is that they did it for absolutely no reason.
I think they did it because you're thinking of the Winter Soldier, not Bucky. That's what I think.
I'm thinking this is a brand new character. He just met Sam Wilson, and now we're in a buddy cop situation.
It's a classic buddy cop situation that's going on here, Dan.
Yeah. Okay.
Usually you have to set up the buddy cop situation, but they just automatically engage with all the tropes.
Yeah, it's like you need to have a little setup where one guy's like, I'm this way, and then the other guy's like, well, I'm completely the other way, and then you can start doing buddy cop things.
I think it's very easy for the both of them to play off someone like Captain America, kind of like how John and I play off Christian and his absurdity, right? So I don't think anything I say is that
absurd, dude. I think I sort of speak for the everyman here. I mean, Quentin Tarantino
that's
recently released an interview where he basically said, I agree with everything Christian says in Cape Shit in so many words.
I mean, if you want to be associated with Quentin Tarantino as your source of truth,
I myself as the Quentin Tarantino of Cape Shit. Yeah.
Yeah, is that you really like feet, or is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, it's really liking feet and all of the other problematic things he does.
So we've established that you are the Quentin Tarantino of Cape Shit, but you are also the Kanye West.
I'm also the Kanye West of Cape Shit.
So, yeah. That's too much. We've gone too far.
For you there.
Oh God, it's too much. Anyways, in this moment we find out not only is Bucky not the only Winter Soldier, because right now Bucky is the Winter Soldier as we know him, but there are other super soldiers being born and made in Russia with the blue liquid that is super soldier serum. That's what Bucky was going to get out of that trunk, which we still don't know who was driving that car.
Yeah, wouldn't it be wild if that became a problem for everyone later? But hey.
I didn't see it coming. I mean, I've only seen the movie. Anyway, so what we realize now, both sides of the conversation here, from Falcon and Cap to Tony and Widow, both realize they're going to need some help. They're not at full Avengers capacity right now, so they're both going to go recruiting. And in this moment in the movie theater, people lost their shit when Queens came up on the screen in big letters, because Spider-Man is about to make his entrance into the MCU.
When you say people lost their shit,
yes.
what do you mean? Like beside themselves,
cheering
like
in the
hysterically
theater.
sobbing, just writhing around on the ground,
Okay, no, not that. Right. I will take back my statement, since that's what losing their shit means to you.
Yeah.
I mean clapping loudly in a movie theater.
That's worse.
Yeah, well,
I like that less.
I know you do. I know. And so we are, we're gonna get our first look at Peter Parker and Aunt May.
Okay, wait, hold on.
I was excited about Aunt May, but
can we get some air horns? Hey, check it out. Welcome back to Christian's Good Faith Question Round 2. I have a second good faith question. All right, so you had Tobey Maguire doing Spider-Man stuff.
Andrew Garfield. Yep.
Right, okay, so Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies already been out at this point?
Yeah.
Okay, but those just had
before that.
Okay, but those just had nothing to do with Marvel. So this guy that we're seeing now is the canon Marvel guy. Yep. The reboot.
He is the first Spider-Man in the MCU.
So the reboot with Andrew Garfield was Sony. And
Sony,
not
100%.
So that was word, and then which is why then when they all show up again later, it's a big deal. Okay, yeah, I was just
Wait,
curious.
what? They show up again later?
Whoa.
Well, I mean, whatever the fuck. It's hey, listen, if you're a Marvel head, I don't even care, and I know that. So what rock have you been living under?
Yeah, so Sony, we don't have to get into this too much, but Sony thinks they can do Marvel things just as well as Disney can, and they're constantly proven wrong, even though they keep trying over and over and over. They've done 2 Fantastic Fours, they've done 2 Spider-Mans, multiple X-Men movies, they did Morbius, right? Which did not go well. It's Morbin
time.
They did Venom twice. So yeah, it's just... Anyways, so it didn't work out so well. So now we get our true MCU Spider-Man, which, different from Tobey and Andrew, this is really a callback to the comics in Peter being in high school, but really being a kid, not being a Tobey Maguire probably shouldn't be in high school kid.
You'd probably call the police if you saw him in high school.
And so I think Tom Holland is a great choice for Peter, and right out the gate they kind of do just a very quick Spider-Man origin story. They're we're going to knock this out real quick. He got powers 6 months ago. He's being Spider-Man. He's made his own suit. and he hasn't told anybody yet. That's it. We get caught up with all of Spider-Man's origins in 2 seconds. He asks how he can crawl on the walls, and he says, it's a long story. Don't worry about it. And I think it's at this point because people are tired of hearing Spider-Man origin stories.
Another Spider-Man origin story.
Yeah, and so I mean, I don't know, this whole Tony and Peter conversation, him realizing that the suit's in the ceiling and talking about the tactile strength of the web, showing that Peter is kind of even not only a dork, but potentially a young Tony. Yeah. That he's inventing
like
his own stuff.
And just like a nerd. Like he's
just like a super
like,
nerd.
He's just kind of like a geek, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so Tony's kind of sussing him out in this moment, trying to figure out, like, is this the guy I want to bring in? I mean, clearly he has the strength, right? I mean, he shows the video of him stopping a car at 40 miles an hour. But what Peter says here, which I really like, was when you can do the things you can, but you don't, then the bad things happen. They happen because of you.
And because with great power comes great responsibility. And then he ends it by saying that.
Kind of, yeah.
You just ruin
kind of said it.
Huh? No, yeah, that was just my favorite part in the movie was when he said what you said, but then he ends it by saying, but also that's because when you have great power, then great responsibility comes along with that.
That kind of brings up like an issue with the third Spider-Man movie in the MCU, because like if he already had that ingrained in his skull without anyone telling him that, then like why does the line mean anything later when it's told to him?
Why does anyone even need to say it?
Yeah, he already knows. That's why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is all phony. Just cut this whole part of the podcast out. This is all phony.
They really should have called it Captain America Civil War parentheses with great power, also great responsibility comes to
that's not even the quote either.
And then Spider-Man, not even the quote. And then you end the parentheses.
But Spider-Man doesn't ever say it in any of the previous movies. So
yeah.
Anyways,
I know, which is why it was so impactful when he said it in this one.
Now look, we finally get to the best part of the movie. Mm-hmm. The best part, which is there's an explosion at Avengers compound, and guess who shows up?
Is it Hawkeye? Is it Hawk?
It's
motherfucking eye, dude.
God.
Yeah, Flaccid Bow, man.
Yeah, and he decides in this moment that fighting Vision is something that he's going to be able to do. It is hilarious watching Hawkeye think that he's going to land any punches on Vision in this moment.
Yeah. I will say, though, as much as like I said, dude, very unenthused. I found this movie very boring. I've been saying it the entire time. But again, big ups to Vision, dude. Hawkeye sucks so bad that it's, again, Vision could have just been fighting the aforementioned Olsen stick, you know what I'm saying? And it would have been cool, but like the fight with him and Vision was sick. I actually thought that was cool. I like how it's like he keeps kind of like phasing, like he'll like grab him and then like phase out, and then like some of Hawkeye's shit is just going through him, but some of it is like connecting, and Vision kind of can control like when he can be touched versus when he can't be, and like how he moves, and like Vision's just cool. And that was actually a cool scene. And if you told me that there would ever be a Hawkeye scene where there's like a one-on-one fight and one of the guys is Hawkeye, that I'd be like, that was badass. I wouldn't have believed you, but like, damn, you got to give it to Vision. Vision is pretty cool. That was a cool scene because of Vision.
Yeah, and then we see here, this kind of sets up that Wanda can control the Mind Stone because she utilizes that power to shove Vision down into the earth
to make him heavy. I didn't really get that. Like what is the Mind Stone be like heavy now, or
I don't think it was making him heavy. I think she was pushing him down with her telekinetic powers.
I think she was pushing the Mind Stone.
I thought she was doing like now he's very heavy.
No,
and he was just falling into the earth because of how heavy he was.
No, I didn't think that that's what it was.
Gotcha.
I mean, people with larger brains like John and myself could really kind of figure that part out, I think. So,
yeah, I don't know, dude. I mean, I feel like maybe my brain is so large that when I see inexplicable things happen on screens, I have to search for alternative reasons why they could be happening in order to actually justify the existence, where you see something happening on the screen and you're just like, oh, it's the simplest explanation. But that's just because your brain is very small and you can't process information as quickly as I can. That's
well, because you're saying that John's brain is small as well.
No, I'm saying that John agreed with me initially, but I think that he was so afraid to go against you because of how verbally abusive and mean you are to him whenever the
true.
podcast
I do have a level of trauma here on this podcast.
Yeah, that he hears you say things. He goes, oh, yeah, no, yep, that's also what I think. But that's really just the anxiety that you've given him throughout this process.
Okay, well, now we see Cap, Falcon, and Bucky rolling up in a VW Bug to meet Sharon, where they will get back Cap's shield and Falcon's wings, followed by
Followed by
there's no defense.
Fucking
zero.
Wide.
I have zero defense to this moment. It is extremely weird.
Yep.
It doesn't really make any sense.
We get a Captain America makeout scene where
with Sharon Carter.
With Sharon Carter.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the buddy cop moment in the backseat with Falcon and Bucky where they're like, ah, and it's just
Except
like
they don't really do that.
Yeah, they go,
okay, they don't really do that.
Yeah, it like zooms in on both their faces while they're going, wah! And it's like, why? Why did that need to be in the movie? I don't really get it.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't make any sense. I have no explanation as to why that would make any sense for Cap to kiss a descendant of Peggy Carter that in his timeline has only been away from her for like a year and a half or 2 years.
You know, it's fun. I was just harping on the makeout scene, but now that you mention it, I didn't even really think about like the weird incestuous angle there too.
Yeah,
but that is pretty strange. Like,
right?
Well,
like
no,
I'm the one
because
calling this out. There must be something crazy here.
Simultaneously both very old and young at the same time. So,
I mean, would you? I can't even. How do you even describe this scenario to somebody?
Yeah. Doesn't
you
exist.
Are
That's
making out with the granddaughter of someone that you dated.
If she was hot
when she was younger.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It didn't make any sense. At all.
Yeah, there's actually a whole like BoJack Horseman season about that, where he ends up getting ousted from the house because he attempts to do something kind of similar.
Oh well.
Sick reference, bro.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, hey, you know what? Didn't work out so well for old BoJack is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, got it. Well, anyways, once they get the equipment, they pull up to a van where our boy Hawkeye's really come through for Captain America. And he went to go get Wanda, but he also went to go get someone else. It's our guy. It's Paul
motherfucking Rudd, dude. Hell yeah. Which
did you know he was going to be in this? By the way,
I had no idea. No. Breath of fresh air, though, dude. I like Paul Rudd. I do. However, feel like he was a bit underutilized. Which, because I like Paul Rudd. I don't give a fuck about Ant-Man, you know what I mean? And so it's like, and I feel like we kind of like, I'm like, oh, cool, Paul Rudd. And then we get like 3 Paul Rudd moments. And then it's like, mostly though, it's really just kind of about Ant-Man, which is fine. I get it, but
I like that none of the Paul Rudd scenes felt wasted, at least. Like every moment that he was on screen talking to Cap, like, what does he say? He's like, I'm shaking your hand too long. This is awesome. Thanks for thinking of me. And he's like just really geeking out, and he like touches Captain America's pecs in this moment because he just kind of can't believe he's standing in front of Cap. I really like this whole moment of Scott Lang being introduced to the rest
He's
of the
like
Avengers.
Consistently the funniest person on screen. It's
Paul Rudd
crazy.
owns, dude. I kind of wish that like instead of Bucky, they had been, like Paul Rudd had been set up
was the Winter Soldier,
and then every scene with Bucky and it was actually just Paul Rudd. I think I would have really liked this movie.
Well, this is where we realize that they're at the airport and the alarm starts going off. Cap says, "Suit up. It's time for a civil war."
Right.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Then he looks at the camera and he winks.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the movie.
And then Bucky says, "Hey, that's my thing."
Yeah.
And then he winks.
And then he looks at the camera and then winks.
And then Sam,
and then all of a sudden,
Sam goes, "I hate you."
Yeah. And then in the corner, there's a desk, and Jim Halpert is sitting at the desk, and he shrugs at the camera.
He shrugs at the camera because he can't make a sound because he might be eaten by aliens.
Yeah, because it's also a quiet place.
Because it's also a quiet place. Yeah.
Anyways, the two sides have formed now. So we've got Iron Man, War Machine, Black Panther, Widow, and what? Spider-Man? And then we've got Cap, Ant-Man, Falcon, Hawkeye, Wanda, and Bucky on the other side.
And so, I might be able to kind of forgive them this in this movie because this is like super nitpick. I'm gonna hit you with like a suit, but like I thought all of the Spider-Man CGI wasn't great and kind of like it didn't look right to me at all. And you even get this weird moment where it's like at the end, we'll like cover the fight and whatever, but there's this point like at the end of the fight where he's like on the ground and like his suit's kind of.
I had the exact same thought.
Yeah, and it's like, and it literally does not even look remotely like the same thing. Like it's like so like because Tom Holland in a suit does like it does not look like the same thing that you've been seeing like crawling around the entire time. And again, like benefit of the doubt because like they'll probably fix this when you actually get a movie where it is Spider-Man. But like it really did not look great in this specific scene.
I hate to agree with you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to slightly. When he's on the ground at the end with the mask half off, where it's clearly like now it's him on the ground. I also noticed the same. I was like, wait, what's wrong with his suit? Why is it like so not as bright? It's like really dull compared to the previous moments where you see him swinging around and stuff. And I also agree. I think at this point too, again, Spider-Man was kind of a throw in here that was not 100% expected before they released the first trailer showing like, hey, by the way, we're bringing in Spider-Man to the MCU, which was a big get because, again, Sony owned Spider-Man and the movie rights for Spider-Man. So this was a big deal to bring him in. But it's not a Spider-Man movie, so I don't think they really invested a lot of time in trying to figure out, like, how does Spider-Man move? How are we going to treat him in the MCU moving forward? Those weren't questions that they had to figure out for that movie. So they just kind of had to get him in, make it serviceable, and kind of move forward, Yeah.
I also think around this time, too, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way as I do or not, but I thought, like, it felt weird to me that, like, Iron Man just, like, showed up in a suit because it's, like, he had, like, made this, like, big deal about, like, destroying all of the suits and how he's, like, not, like, a suit guy now and he's, like, whatever. And then, like, with just sort of, like, no fanfare or explanation, it's just, like, Tony in a suit again. And then it's, like, and it's not really, like, referenced or talked about or whatever. Like, I didn't really understand where that jump had happened.
But he did talk about it.
Okay, I might have just missed it. It's a long fucking movie, dude.
Avengers Age of Ultron, he had a suit.
Yeah, he destroyed the suits in Iron Man 3.
He destroyed his suits in Iron Man 3.
He destroyed suits in Iron Man 3. So he would have still had like a suit. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
also, he talked about.
I was just you're right about that.
It's okay. I'll take it. Yeah, no worries. I'll take that for sure.
I hadn't seen him in a suit for the entire movie, and then he was like, I blew up all my suits, and that's all I was thinking about. But I guess we have seen him in a suit since then.
Yeah, and so when they first get together and you see Iron Man show up, this is where he calls in Underoos. And that's when Spider-Man swings in and steals the shield. And this little moment where Spider-Man steals the shield and like lands in his Spider-Man pose, that's the little snippet that was released in the trailer where I think that trailer was like the most viewed Marvel trailer of all time at that point because of that Spider-Man entrance. which again, people lost their minds, but this time at home.
Yeah, but also like trailers suck, dude. What the fuck? Like, wouldn't that have been like? Because again, I plead no contest.
Sure.
I don't give a fuck. But like, if we're going from like the perspective of someone who's like really into these movies, I think I would have much preferred to like be in the theater and have like a fun Spider-Man reveal than like watch a trailer where I know Spider-Man's going to show up in the movie at some point. That's kind of lame.
So it's an interesting balance, and we can maybe get into this in like the phase 3 recap, but trailers are a big kind of thing that Marvel's been reassessing through phase 4 specifically because of that specifically. Is like, how much do you reveal and how much do you not reveal? It was a big deal for the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness movie that came out more recently, because Kevin Feige came out saying like, we revealed way too much in the trailers, and it didn't hit as hard once people got into the theaters because of that, even though there were certain things that happened that weren't ever talked about. So I think, to your point, I don't disagree, but also Spider-Man joining the MCU was something that was going to get people to the theaters, right?
Sure.
So it's like, that alone, just the notion of this property that wasn't owned by Disney making its way in was a big deal.
Right.
So,
yeah, I could understand that.
So it's definitely it's a tough balance though, because I agree with you. Like they've got to strike a balance, which is why now I only watch the first teaser and the first trailer of all new movies. I don't watch any future trailers, TV spots, because they start spoiling too much. So I've taken on this kind of thing where I don't watch future stuff after the first.
Yeah, well, I think for me even too, like I had no idea Spider-Man was in this movie. So when it happened, like even in my house, you know, I was like standing up and just clapping like a fucking maniac as soon, because I didn't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
so like, so
just
they start fighting, dude. My issue with this fight is, first of all, the little like mid-fight posing scene that they had, where they all line up against each other and they charge head on. That was like, I was like, okay, guys, like we didn't really need to do that. Like you just
it was sick though. That was for me.
That was for you.
That was for
It's for me.
It's a classic Red Rover kind of scenario.
Yeah, exactly. But
I love it.
The main issue that I had with this fight was that they kind of knew, like both sides knew that they were going to end up fighting each other. Like they kind of implicitly agreed that this was the meetup point at this airport. So I would have expected both sides to like come up with some plan to deal with the other side, like especially Iron Man and especially Captain America, but none of them had anything. They just kind of like walked at each other until they were like, okay, I guess we're fighting now. And it just seemed like out of character for both of them.
So maybe I'm not remembering, but I don't think there was a plan for all of them to meet at this airport. Iron Man was tasked to go find Captain America and Bucky and did that, but Cap and them weren't expecting them to be there, right? They had the jet, they were lining up, they were getting ready to go to Siberia, and then Iron Man showed up. But Iron Man only had 36 hours, and he had to not only recruit Spider-Man, get people together, and get to where Cap was with Bucky. So I don't know necessarily that any plans they could have come up with would have been great in the first place. And separately, I think that was the plan. It was recruit as many people as we can and then go after Cap. And then Cap, again, those guys were all planning to get on that ship and get to Siberia. That was their plan.
So
right?
Just no contingencies. Just hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
like
maybe.
He knew that Iron Man was going to be tracking him.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I can see that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but during this big fight scene, we got a lot of banter as well. A lot from Spider-Man, him talking to the Winter Soldier and Falcon talking, and then Falcon's like, everyone's got a gimmick now. And then he's like, you've got a metal arm? That's awesome, dude. And it's like kind of setting up Spider-Man to be this high school kid. Like this is actually a kid that's in high school, not an actual superhero.
Yeah, and I'm like, because I actually do like Spider-Man as a character, but like I didn't really like the Peter Parker bants in this like scene. I also didn't really like Tom Holland that much, like even in the scenes like outside of it. Like, this might even sound a little out of character for me, but it's like I want to like Spider-Man, so I'm like willing to overlook this movie being my first impression of Spider-Man, but there's a lot of stuff I hope that we get to see tightened up around the Spider-Man character later, because it felt like a little weird. And I do see what you're saying, where it's like, they're really trying to set him up to sort of be this goofy high school kid. But I think a thing that like really works with Spider-Man's character in the comics, and also like kind of in video games too, I guess, like Spider-Man game did this well, is it's like he is like funny. He's like a funny guy. He says funny things, and he does, like he's sort of a lighthearted character. But it just like it felt like a little like off-putting here, maybe just because like the stakes are so high, and also it's like it's his first time meeting any of these people, and it's like basically everyone's like fighting for their fucking lives in a sense, and then there's this guy that's also just sort of there, just being like, "Whoa, cool arm," like it was just like I just kept being like I was just like getting like whiplashed out of the moment, you know?
Yeah, I mean I can see that. Well, luckily, there was then another set of banter that you probably really attached yourself to. And it was when, I forgot who it was, said something about Hawkeye retiring. It might have been Cap. And then Hawkeye said, I played golf, played 18, shot 18, never seemed to miss. And
I didn't like
my
it.
favorite part.
Classic
I
Hawkeye.
like it.
Classic Hawkeye.
My favorite part, though, was when Hawkeye gets put up against the Black Panther, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Clint," and even Black Panther's like, "I don't care." It's like, thank you.
Yeah. Well, and again, as we get towards the end of this fight, Vision appears, right?
Right.
And again, Vision's presence is just so large in this that it gets everyone to kind of like stop in their tracks,
Well, and this was kind of like and again, hey, yo, can we get some
Of
air?
course,
Can we get some? Yeah. Okay. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Christian's Good Faith Question Corner, round 3, a third good faith question. This movie is long, bro. Okay, and I really try to do my damnedest throughout these podcasts and throughout doing cape shit to really pay attention and like stay in it so that we can talk about it, whatever. But sometimes I do feel like I might miss things, especially because I'm not giddy at the edge of my couch like Dan is when he watches these, just cheering every 30 seconds or whatever. So why did Vision show up? Like, what did I miss something? Like, because I know that he was sort of on the side of like the Sokovian Accord people, but he wasn't there. But then he just like sort of like was there and like in this space that feels like maybe kind of arbitrary for him to be. Like, had he been like heading there? Like, how did he know everyone was there? And like, why did he pick like then to show up? Like, is there like travel restriction on does it take him a while to get places? Or was he unaware that everyone was fighting, and then as soon as he became aware, he just like flashed it? I didn't really understand how Vision got there or why he got there when he did.
I mean, probably yes to most of that, which is he was left behind. He was sent down into the core of the earth. I don't know how did he get knocked out? Was he okay?
Right, because he was very heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah, because
okay.
he was made very heavy.
Yeah, and I mean, what we don't know is how fast can Vision fly? Does he fly at the speed of sound? Does he fly at a slower rate? We don't really know those answers, but based on what we know, he became conscious, became aware of the fight, became aware of the fact that Wanda is no longer there, and then went to the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but how did he find them?
Because he has full access to every capable. He's an AI that has access to the Avengers compound and can track.
Okay, so he just he just always kind of implicitly knows.
No. He's on Iron Man's side.
Are.
He knows where Iron Man is. He can. It's not a difficult task for him to know where Iron Man is.
Yeah, word. Okay, so it like sort of becomes like he just kind of knows where Iron Man is, and then
he just got there late.
So we're sort of. Okay, so we're sort of led to assume that like when he was made heavy, it like sort of encumbered him for a little while, and then later now he's showing
the
up.
Heavy curse was lifted about 30 hours after, and then he only had 6 hours to get to the airport.
He only had and he actually took a plane.
And then he jumps from the plane.
And then he jumped out of it. That's how
we will get a helicopter jump, by the way.
Yes, we will.
Yeah. Anyways, so there's a lot that happens in this fight, but the big moments here are a giant man. Which is
Giant Man.
Giant Man. Yeah.
Also known as Goliath.
I don't think so.
No? Different person?
No, I think that is the other person that is working with Hank Pym back in the day on Project Goliath.
So they're different people?
Yes.
But they can both turn big and small.
Well, back when Hank Pym was working on the formula, yes.
So the Goliath is also Ant-Man?
You know that Scott Lang isn't able to genetically turn big and small. It's all the suit, right?
Yeah, but so Goliath.
Can Goliath genetically do it?
No, Goliath isn't a person.
So wouldn't the title
MCU
be aptly summed up in Ant-Man : I can also turn into a giant Goliath as well?
Right.
You know, there's a reason why.
That's a really good point, John.
There's a reason why none of us are Kevin Feige. Yeah. But anyways, so we wrap this up with Cap and Bucky deciding that they're going to need to leave the others behind if they're going to make it out of the airport. And at the last second, Widow decides that she's going to help them escape by stalling or, shocking Black Panther from stopping Cap and Bucky from escaping the compound. She says,
"Yeah," and she. Oh yeah. Okay.
What,
I was about to say.
No, please go ahead.
Well, she says something. She said because I didn't write it down, so I don't. But she says something along the lines of, "Hey, Captain America, you better be sure about this because, as you and I both know, with great power comes great responsibility." And then she kind of winks at him, and then she zaps Black Panther.
And then that sets off a domino effect of everybody winking, and then I guess.
Yeah, Cap turns to the camera, and he winks, and he's like, "Can you believe this broad?" And then he flies away.
Oh man. All right. And then Christian's favorite part of the movie where as they're taking off and War Machine is going after them.
It actually is my favorite part of the movie.
I wasn't kidding. I could see that from a mile away.
Yes.
Vision gets, I guess, distracted and Falcon avoids the beam and War Machine's suit gets hit by Vision's Mind Stone beam and tumbles straight towards the ground. You're like, there's no way, right? There's no way that the MCU is going to let them hit the ground like that, right? There's no way. And then kablam. War Machine slams the ground.
I love the visual of his screen going dark and him just falling.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
So cool. But then, classic MCU, he doesn't die or anything. He's still there. He's fine.
Yeah, he's fine.
I mean, he gets paralyzed for a little bit, but
well, yeah, he's
but
like
then the
paralyzed,
next movie,
but it's like,
comes back,
and also it's like getting paralyzed in a world with Stark tech. It's like you didn't even get paralyzed. It's
the worst part is he just came out alive.
Okay. So the only thing for me out of that moment was that he landed perfectly on his back, so that his face was up when Tony got to him. It's like he was tumbling through the air, but perfectly landed in a way that we'd be able to see his face and he wasn't, destroyed.
if you would ever watch King of the Hill, that's actually how they ended one of their seasons, with Peggy jumping out of an airplane because she wants to go. Yeah, because she wants to go parachuting, and then her parachute doesn't deploy, and then she just falls all the way onto the ground, and then hits. And it was pretty dark for King of the Hill. But I'm just saying, it was a classic Peggy Hill moment, because a similar thing happens to her in the television show King of the Hill.
Yeah,
that's tragic.
Classic. Yeah. Anyway, so as they find out that Rhodes has some form of paralysis and may never walk properly again, Widow and Tony are talking, and Widow at this point is like, I don't know necessarily that I'm on the right side again. And Tony's calling her a double agent. She leaves by saying that, I'm not the one that needs to watch their back. And it's like, damn, all right. Well, she's flipped, I guess. She's back on Cap's side, it seems. And this is when Tony gets the information about Zemo. And we find out that doctor, which, by the way, was the doctor from a previous movie, which is one of the Russo brothers. So the guy that dies in the bathtub is one of the Russo brothers. It's the same doctor from the previous... I'm blanking on which movie it was, but it might have been from Winter Soldier. Yeah, so he's the one who had the face mask technology. He was framing Winter Soldier and then was killed off after that. And so, sorry, Russo brother, you are no longer part of the MCU. But yeah, so that's when we find out, and Tony has that information. So now Tony realizes that maybe he's made a mistake, and that the Winter Soldier is actually not someone who is the one who's been doing all of this.
This is where what I was talking about before, where they set up like very ambiguous sides, and there are like merits to both sides and whatever, but then they kind of ruin it with the framing of this plot line, where it's like, okay, well, now it's not ambiguous anymore. Captain was right, and all they were going to do was put the superhero dudes in like a prison in the middle of the ocean. So that's bad. Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, because Zemo, he goes and finds the other Winter Soldiers frozen in Siberia, and then Tony visits the Raft prison, the underwater prison for superpowered beings.
MCU's
and
Arkham
even with
Asylum.
this,
And Paul Rudd.
and True. and Hawkeye, and
Falcon.
And Paul Rudd and Hawkeye.
Yeah, and Falcon. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
so it's just like...
Bunch of random guys.
Anyway, so it's just a prison.
Just a regular prison.
But it's underwater. Even with the evidence, though, Ross doesn't believe Tony at this point. Ross is like, you've already fucked up too many times. I'm not believing anything new that you're bringing to the table. Tony sees how specifically how Wanda's locked up was pretty intense, though. Even though the other people were just like hanging out inside their cells, Wanda was like strapped down and like her face, eyes bulging. Like,
does she need to have her fingers move all weirdly to use her powers? Can she not just use her mind to use her powers?
Can Harry Potter perform magic without waving his wand?
The answer is yes.
Can he? Oh, I don't know, actually. So,
get fucked, Dan.
It wasn't. No, I was actually asking. That was a Dan good faith question.
Okay. You
should have given yourself an air horn.
I forgot. Yeah, my bad. But I actually don't know. That's a good question. And we never really see if she has any type of different lockup that would like Magneto's lockup in X-Men, where it's like no metal and he's like just in cushions and like cushion seats and stuff so that he can't break out. Anyways, that's a whole other podcast. Anyways, so Tony gets this info from Falcon of where they've gone, because he's like, look, I was wrong. Here's the info. Like, Cap was right. Winter Soldier is not, who did all of this stuff. And so he's on his helicopter and he's on his way to Siberia, and he's not going to take the helicopter to Siberia. He's going to jump out of the helicopter in an Iron Man suit to fly there. And now I think the reason he's doing that is because he's going to have the helicopter go back to the Avengers compound to make it seem like he went back there. So the plane jump makes sense.
Again, it's like a long ass movie, dude. I was really trying, but this is like definitely around the time where like my recollection's starting to get a little foggy because we're like fucking 2 hours and 15 minutes into you know some shit that I wasn't, you know, whatever. But Black Panther's not with him, right?
No, he's following along.
Okay.
So Wakandan tech, they have cloaking devices on their ships, and so it shows as Iron Man leaves the helicopter. It shows his ship in the clouds.
He's been getting tailed by Black Panther. Okay,
exactly.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We're back on the same page.
Boom.
Okay.
And
I just couldn't remember how Black Panther ended up there. I just remember he is there.
Yeah, he's kind of trying to figure out what's going on because it's clear that it's not making a ton of sense, like up front, and that things are not panning out as he kind of thought they would, even though he's still kind of looking for Bucky to take that revenge.
Right.
And so when Bucky and Cap are there at the base, they're kind of going through, and Iron Man made it there before them, it seems, because he opens up that door and that's who appears. And in this moment, they've reached a truth, and this is where Iron Man calls Bucky the Manchurian Candidate. So a little giggle time right there from
which oh my god, I lost it
I know
when he said that. Oh boy.
But what we do see now is that Zemo killed all the super soldiers. We get in there and we're like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that. I didn't think that. I thought this was going to be the first time I watched this, at least I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be Cap, Iron Man, Bucky get there and they all fight the 7 or 8 whatever super soldiers that are waking up on ice to, take down the Avengers. And it turns out that is not the case. They'd all been shot in the head, and they're all dead in this moment. And this is where we finally find out what was that mission log from December 16th, 1991.
Oh, they were just they were foretelling the arrival of a very popular movie soon to be released on December 16th, 2022, and that's Avatar: Way of the Water.
Okay. I don't know how that movie is going to live up to the hype of being 10 years or so after the original came out. I don't even remember what the original one was about at this point.
Just trust me, bro.
I mean, it's got to make some crazy. I think what I read was it had to be the 3rd highest grossing movie of all time to make its money back. That's how much they spent on making that movie. Anyways, here's what we find out. We find out that inside that car
that's a different podcast.
We find out that in that car was Howard and Maria Stark, and they were the ones that were driving on that road and had the super soldier serum.
He Batmaned him, dude.
He Batmaned him?
He killed.
Yeah, he killed his parents.
Tony Stark.
No.
Yeah, hit him with a classic Batman.
Yeah, he did. I will say here in this Disney fashion, because kind of we got to keep that PG-13 rating. The death of the parents was a little non-impactful for me. Because
you know what? Hold on. I said this before when we said, again, this is the point in the movie where I was starting to like really now that you mentioned that, I just watched this. I do not fucking remember how those parents die.
Yeah.
Actually, I just watched this movie and I cannot recall.
The car crashes. Howard Stark falls out of the seat onto the ground.
Yeah.
And then the Winter Soldier pulls him up and punches him in the face twice. With his metal arm, and then throws him back in the seat as if he had just hit his head.
It also makes no visible dent in his face, even though
that's the problem that I had. Yeah, that's exactly the problem I had, which was like he very hard hit him in the face 2 times with his metal arm and put him back as if he like got rammed into the steering wheel as he hit or something. And then for the wife, he just took the metal arm, put it over her neck and choked her to death, essentially.
Yeah.
And then
that's cool.
Yeah, and then so he took the super soldier serum, and this is where Tony loses his mind, and he says, "Did you know?" And Cap hesitates, and so he, I guess, knows based on the conversation. What he knows was that the Winter Soldier killed Stark, Howard Stark and Maria Stark, but he didn't know until more recently that the Winter Soldier, which by the way is Bucky.
Huh?
So even
so
that's how
like
Cap knew.
Kind of an important plot point.
Yeah,
okay.
is that he knew back in the day that Howard was murdered by the Winter Soldier. He didn't know till recently that the Winter Soldier is Bucky.
Right, sure.
Right. And so even after finding out, he still didn't tell Tony, which it's like, how do you tell Tony during all these events that are happening that the person you're looking for is the person that killed your parents, but it wasn't really him because he was brainwashed? Like,
right, but also like Tony knows that, right? Like, I mean, he doesn't know that he killed, but he's like, he understands at this point, like the differentiation between the Winter Soldier and Bucky. Like I
don't think he does yet, because I think what he knows is that Bucky was framed. I don't think he necessarily has the full Winter Soldier breakdown of the brainwash, does he?
I don't know.
I guess. Yeah, this is a long dude. I guess I had assumed, but like in like the Tony Stark way, where he just sort of like has his fingers on all the pulses that he would know. But I'm trying to think, because like Bucky, he first shows up then he's in Winter Soldier, Captain America, but Tony Stark's he's not in Captain America Winter Soldier, is he?
Tony Stark?
No, I don't think he was in that movie. No, he wasn't.
So I guess he wouldn't have the context of that movie.
Correct.
Although perhaps Captain America and him would have had a conversation, but they're not really like friends, so maybe they wouldn't really have had that conversation. And then I guess when would he have known in this movie?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, so he doesn't have the context.
Maybe you're right.
Yet.
Maybe he doesn't completely understand the separation of the man. Okay.
Well, and this leads to the plan. This was Zemo's plan the whole time. This was the way to bring down the Avengers from the inside. And so now we get the big Iron, Cap, and Bucky kind of close fight. I mean, every hit in this moment between these three characters was impactful. It was big, and I like that it was like in that enclosed space after they like do the whole climb up the stairs and trying to escape, and Bucky's trying to get out and all that. Like that was fine, and he says he's gonna wing it because his directional whatever scanners aren't working. So yeah, his aimers, he's like, I'll wing it, and he shoots the thing and closes it. But I really like this last fight, but I also realized at this moment too, his arm was just metal, right? It wasn't a vibranium arm at this point. And so Iron Man, as Bucky is like trying to pull the core of the suit out, Iron Man shoots his arm off, which was pretty cool. But I guess at this point, maybe this is a classic Loki staff situation, but it's like, how strong was that arm if Iron Man was able to just blow it off like that?
Yeah.
It was kind of a weird. I didn't really understand it at that point for me. Like, it was strong enough.
Well, Tony's very angry, so his beams they're even stronger now because he's mad.
Yeah. Fun fact about that fight where it's the 2v1. They apparently choreographed that 10 minutes before they shot it.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
They just like had to come up with it on the spot, and they came up with it on the spot, and it's one of the coolest parts of the movie.
Yeah, I mean that whole fight is really sweet, and then as Iron Man and Cap really get into it there at the end, he says he is my friend, and Iron Man says so was I, and they keep fighting at each other, and he says stay down.
Kiss.
And then they kiss.
Kissed. He was my friend. So was I. And they just kiss.
Yeah. And then he says, stay down. Final warning. And Cap comes in with the classic banger. I can do this all day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he can.
And then, but anyways, what I thought was kind of the most impactful part of this was the very last blow that Captain America uses his shield to like take out Iron Man's armor. Is you can see on Tony's face, if you go back and watch this again, that Tony actually thought that Cap was going to shove that shield into his head.
Yeah.
Like, when Cap raises the shield over his head, Tony blocks his face as if Cap is about to murder him. And it really shows at this moment the complete disconnect in their friendship and the complete disconnect in this fight, because he thinks like Cap is actually going to murder him. It's pretty intense, and that's why he has such a free shot at Iron Man's chest to take down the rest of his suit.
And maybe he was going to murder him, and then he's like, "Oh, he's blocking his head."
This is a perfect,
let me just get the chest
opportunity for me to do something a little bit less evil.
Oh, damn it!
Yeah.
Oh no!
And before they walk away here, T'Challa confronts Zemo, who admits at the end that he lost his father, wife, and son from the rubble of Sokovia, even though they were miles away from the impact. And Zemo tries to kill himself. And Black Panther prevents that before.
It's like just let him. What the fuck? Like, you know?
Well,
he did all this shit. Like, I'm like, if I'm Black Panther in this situation, I see the guy about to like shoot himself in the head, I would just be like, all right, you know, hey, all's well that ends well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, is it too easy?
Yeah, it's kind of like more torture for the guy to let him live.
Yeah. Especially then he's taken into custody.
But didn't he like talk about the fact that like in Wakanda they think that like when you die, that's really when your life is just like
that only happens for Wakanda.
Not for everyone. Yeah, not for everyone.
Only Wakandans. All right.
It's like Valkyries.
These movies are confusing.
Well, the good news for you then is that we are now at the final part of this movie. Where we see Rhodey now trying to walk for the first time using the legs that Tony has built for him, and is only semi-successful here. And then
he falls. He's like, "Don't help me! Don't help me!"
It's not like that. He just says, "Don't help me."
He goes, "No, don't help me!" It's kind of like that.
That's not what happens.
A little bit. That's kind of what happens.
We get our standard Stan Lee appearance, and he says, "Are you Tony Stank?"
Good one.
My God.
Good one, Stan.
Yeah. I clapped. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I clapped.
I'm sure you did. And this is where he gets the letter from Cap, as well as the cell phone, which will make appearance in the future. And the cell phone is there to call them when they need them. And Cap breaks the rest of the people out of the raft, which was pretty easy for Cap to do, apparently.
Yeah. I know, yeah, he's just sort of like there in the underground, or like the underwater fortress. It's like, that is like a legit, like, looks at the camera and winks. I know I've been like joking about that a lot, but like if ever there was because it's just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, he's just like here, you know, but he's Captain America, you know, you can just do shit like that.
Yep. And that's it. If you need me, I'll be there, says Cap. And that wraps up Captain America: Civil War. Except for the two credit scenes here that we have, which is a mid-credit scene of now Bucky being in Wakanda, which is a little nod to the fact that, hey, we're about to explore Wakanda here pretty soon. Black Panther's got a solo movie coming up, and Bucky will be in Wakanda trying to get better, trying to get this Hydra stuff out of his head, maybe fix his arm, all that fun stuff.
Yes, and then also Spider-Man is going to come back, and then that's the end.
Steve from Brooklyn heard him, you know? So, yeah, it was Steve from Brooklyn.
Yep, from Brooklyn.
And that's it.
Yep.
Captain America: Civil War.
Woo!
I think we may have close to broken our record for longest podcast here. So this
is going to be a fucking nightmare to edit.
This was a long one, but you know, I think you've said a lot of things that maybe you didn't like so much about this movie, but I think it's time for you to tell us what you did and give us a little rating here.
Okay, you're gonna hate my rating.
Oh, I know.
By the way, I'm just telling you off the rip.
I mean, I already know you're wrong, so it's fine.
All right. Well, you don't know that.
Oh, I know.
You already, are sort of under a false impression that I'm wrong.
If you rate it
false.
less than a 3, I'm stopping the podcast. We're never going a further episode in. So just take that in. And
interesting.
Rate it less than a 3. If you rate it less than a 3, we're ending the podcast. So
we're just done. Okay, fantastic. Well, I would never do that to you.
Well, let's find out.
You've done it before, so.
Well, I know, but you know what? I'm reformed. I'm not like a toxic guy anymore. I'm like the Quentin Tarantino of Cape shit, but like in a positive way.
So
You know
let's hear what you like.
all right, what did I like? I guess if there's one thing that I liked about this movie, it's really the first attempt I feel like they made to expand the universe in the way that they did expand it. We've seen before some of their soirees, forays. A soiree is like a party, which I guess this wasn't. Yeah, but anyway, before we've seen their forays into attempting to do this, but it all like still feels like pretty self-contained, and even their sort of excursions out of that, it's still like a lot of the same roster of people that we've seen so far and whatever. In this one, it's like the scale of everything felt big, the magnitude of everything felt large and impactful. It sort of set like a good precedent for what I think we'll see moving into the future, of the fact that like, hey, these movies do have some, like real world applications and consequences. And even so much so that it's like, other factions of the world have now taken notice of these people in the United States and their comings and goings and, all that entails. So really, I think as opposed to being like a franchise that's just centralized around, these very sort of like specific characters in these specific settings, we now get to see the rise, perhaps, of a more like homogenized Earth feel to the franchise, as opposed to just like, hey, what's up in these small specific areas around the United States. And that was cool, I guess. I like that for what it was. That being said, I would probably give this movie a 2. I wasn't really.
Dude.
I found it pretty boring.
It's just I don't even get it.
This is supposed to be the positivity segment, so I'm not even gonna like whatever go into. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like really long, and I just didn't care, and I was bored, and the fight scenes were really long, and the new characters weren't that interesting. I don't know. I just fucking whatever. I was like, this is it's like I really had to like try to pay attention towards the end. It's like by the time we got to the end of this movie, I was like, oh fuck, dude, like I'm like missing parts of it because I just stopped giving a fuck like an hour ago. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, Dan.
Wow. Well, this is the last episode of Cape Shit. Thank you everybody for listening along.
Yeah, there you go. Easy.
I loved this movie, man. I thought it was fun. I thought the action sequences were great. I liked the character introductions here. Spider-Man, all that fun stuff.
Like?
But what I didn't like was there were moments.
Yeah, you're allowed to be negative.
There were moments in this movie that just felt like they were unnecessary. Like the movie was so long already that they could have cut out like a few parts of this movie that didn't need to be there. One, the whole Sharon Carter like storyline and then her kissing Cap and all this shit, like setting up some type of maybe relationship with her, which, spoiler alert, by the way, that never happens, right? So like it was kind of wasted. Also, again, like even in the start of the movie, it felt like a weird start for how the rest of the movie was, right? Like it didn't, like the red vial, I don't know that it was really explained, and like it was kind of just a cheap way to get the movie started and have an explosion where something is, exploded by Wanda and kicks off the whole Sokovia Accord stuff. And then again, like the little moments, so the Sharon kiss and also the widow surviving a grenade inside an enclosed space inside of a truck by using a human shield. Like none of that was necessary to make this movie work. So I feel like this was almost like the director's cut of Civil War. Like the movie could have been edited down maybe another half hour and we wouldn't have lost anything. So that's kind of how I feel about that. And also take out the line of played 18, shot 18. I never seemed to miss. No one needs more Hawkeye quotes.
The director's cut I want to see is this movie, but just without Hawkeye in it. I think I would actually like it a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah, Hawkeye was kind of an unneeded addition to this movie, honestly. So that's what I would say. So anyways, to wrap it up, I would give this movie a rating of 8.5 out of 10.
Wow. There's no way, dude. You know what? Normally you get incredulous over my ratings. I'm going to get incredulous over an 8.5. There is no fucking conceivable world in which 8.5 is the rating.
The cameos, the appearances of new characters, Ant-Man coming in, Spider-Man, all of these people coming into the same area. Vision, you seeing more power from him. Like, you see Wanda. You see, this was made for me. Like, the moment where they're at the airport facing each other with the line in the sand and they're coming at, like, that overarching shot of those two teams coming together to fight was made for me to watch.
That's true. That's true. It was.
That's it.
It was.
So
it was.
I would have rated it a 7.5 if you made it a 3 out of 10. So just like,
last chance to bring
fair.
it up,
That's fair.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
last chance.
No, there's no way, dude. No, dude.
I'm sorry, it was a great movie. It was a really great movie.
If I'm watching a movie and my feeling is, oh my god, I'm so bored, and then that doesn't stop at any point, and then it's like I just can't. It just is what it is. It's like I just thought it was boring. I think we've seen way better shit out of the MCU, and I hope we get to see way better shit in the future. Because if this is like the big thing that's like taking us into Phase 3 that everyone's losing their fucking minds about. Then we just get this caliber of movie going through Phase 3. This is going to be a slog of a process for me. I'll do it.
I guess that's the point of this podcast, right? Yeah. I guess that's the point.
Yeah.
All right, John, bring us home.
Yeah, so this movie, in hindsight, was one of my favorite movies. I think it still is one of my favorite movies. It gives a lot of my favorite scenes in all of the MCU, especially action scenes, though watching it back again, there are a lot of like sloppy scenes to go along with it. So it kind of gives the extremes of like the worst parts of the MCU and the best parts of the MCU. I didn't realize how much of my excitement for this movie was built up in the cameos. And how many cameos there were. The reveal of Spider-Man, if it wasn't spoiled by the trailers, was kind of like a double twist because we had already gotten a brand new character in Black Panther, and then for them to introduce another character was just like a huge surprise to people who didn't know going in. But at the same time, I felt like they didn't really need to add Spider-Man at all. They didn't really need to add Ant-Man at all. I thought that the whole finale Civil War battle at the airport was kind of like weird and was supposed to be really cool, but I, unlike Dan, don't really fall for that type of like everyone charge at each other splash art moment. Also, Rhodey not dying in this movie kind of takes a big hit to its rating. I think like the whole impact of that scene is lost knowing that he just lives and also gains his mobility back. So there's basically no consequence to that entire fight. Also, what I mentioned before was that it was built up to be this ambiguous thing that divides the Avengers, but then it ends up there's a correct side. It's Cap's side. Because otherwise you all get put into these like weird cells and are stranded in the middle of the ocean by siding with the governments. So I don't know. Aside from that, I thought Zemo was sick. His goal kind of weird, but he was like interesting, I suppose. Final thoughts or final rating, I think I would still give this a 7.75.
Nice.
Just because of all the stuff that I love from it. I just can't take it away from that. I'm really excited to go into the rest of these movies because this movie really breaks us from the Tony Stark and Captain America centric MCU, and we get to see like more, not one-off characters, but side characters that end up being their own thing.
Yeah, well, and that means our next episode here, you'll see us next with Doctor Strange, starring Sherlock Holmes as Benedict Cumberbatch.
Ooh, Sherlock Holmes himself. Yeah.
Yo, thanks for watching or listening or not doing either one, but just playing it in the background somewhere.
Yeah, hey, appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. I'm gonna go edit this podcast now, and it will hopefully be done in 2 weeks.
Yep. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye.